This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is an online mentoring program that teaches people with no experience how to create a real profitable online business in e-commerce. I have been working with Ryan at Change for a few years now and attended many events and got to meet the amazing community of like-minded people. These guys are the best of the best. The support these guys offer is personal, no bots or employees. There's no experience needed, but like anything in life, it takes time as it's a real business with real results. For more information, go check out Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help build a successful business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live.
And obviously, they'd say that he's coming to visit Epstein. It would flag up. It would say, but he's a convicted felon. You do know that. And they'd go back to Rory and they'd say, sir, you do know. And he's obviously gone, I'm going. He's obviously gone against advice for whatever reason that is. As I said, having read stuff and having been briefed on what had happened to a kid and what they did to him, and being in front of the kid and seeing the state of him, and I'm starting looking and I'm thinking, shit. My colleague was downstairs, so I was by this exit door, and he was down the next floor to stop anyone coming up and coming in and obviously being faced with this situation. So the noise we heard when we were looking through the window, little scuffle, it was him on the floor tied up. You're fucking dangerous. You're a child molester, and you're standing there and you're laughing. You think you're fucking funny, because basically, if the maids don't put the teddy bears back exactly like this is in that picture, he goes into one. He flips.
Was he the favourite?
Yeah, I mean, he got away with absolute fucking murder. I mean, we were letting people in. We didn't know who the fuck they were, and if we said anything, we'd get told to shut up. I'm doing it because people should know what Prince Andrew's like, and I'll bare my soul, and there's more to come about what I've done. To royal protection, a lot of the officers had a massive dislike for Prince Charles because they blamed him for her death. I just think the issue you've got with Prince Andrew, what he's got, is 6 or 7 of his closest friends are now convicted sex offenders.
Boom, we're on. Today's guest, we've got Paul Page. Paul, how are you, brother? Good to see you.
Yeah.
Seen a few of your interviews.
Yeah.
60 Minutes in Australia, Lad Bible. You've worked close with royalties. You've been very outspoken against big names such as Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
We've all seen his interview. A bit embarrassing if I'm honest, but before we get into all the mad stuff, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, good. I've been busy, as you know. Finished an interview with NBC last year that went at Peacock TV America, obviously talking about Prince Andrew. And done a few other things. I've turned down quite a bit of stuff because I don't want to be someone bouncing around the scene. I've said what I've said because it's true. It's the more people that sort of understand what the man is about, Prince Andrew, the more they can make an informed decision of, what he's actually done or what he's suspected of having done.
Before we get into everything, Paul, just get a bit of understanding about you, what you've done in the past, what you're involved in.
Yeah.
So I always like to go back to the start of my guests, where you grew up and how it all began.
East London, not Essex as some people call me, an Essex wide boy. I'm from East London, Leytonstone, born in Forest Gate. Stayed there most of my life, well, up until 20 when I joined Essex Police, and then moved to Grays. In fact, my sergeant, beat duty sergeant, welcomed me to the police station. She said, "Welcome to Grays, the arsehole of Essex." So yeah, it was that's where I first was based. Essex. I was there for about 3 years.
What were you like at school?
I wasn't massively clever. I was street smart. I got an O level in English and art, but I wasn't really that academic. I was more sports orientated. I started karate when I was 8, got my black belt when I was 14, and then got into the England karate team when I was 16. So I spent a lot of my sort of younger days travelling up and down the country and across Europe, fighting in competitions. Winning, I won quite a bit. I wasn't the best of the best, and I won the British and English titles. Never got a European or world title, unfortunately. But I just didn't have that extra, as some of my friends did, went on to be world champions. I just didn't have that extra push. But yeah, it gave me discipline, gave me focus. It sort of instilled into me that you've got to work hard, harder than you've ever worked before if you really want something. You can't get carried along. You've got to do it yourself. Otherwise, you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah. How's your family upbringing?
I lived with I was brought up by my grandparents because my parents were having problems at the time. So I was fostered by those. Luckily for me, they were quite well off. So I didn't want for anything, as soon as I passed my test, I had a brand new car. I wasn't spoilt, but I was looked after by my grandparents. He had a building business, quite a successful business. So I suppose he put me in for everything, to try and keep me busy. So Cubs, Scouts, got my Chief Scouts Award, Territorial Army, served 3 years in that from the age of 17 to 20 before I went to the police. Worked as a lifeguard, fitness instructor, and obviously England Karate International. So I was quite busy through my younger days. I wasn't a saint, don't get me wrong. I've been chased by the fucking police. I've just never been caught. But not doing any serious crime, but just being a little shit like most people are.
Do you think keeping busy then kind of helps with the family breakup? Yeah,
I think that's why my grandparents did so much for me, to try and cover that gap that I never really had a normal relationship as my friends did. They lived with their parents, I was an only child. And so they did their best. But so I had an old school upbringing, old fashioned sort of views that I took on, and it didn't do me any harm, but it gave me the drive to succeed. It gave me, my grandparents always said, no one's going to give anything in this life. You've got to work hard for it. And that's the ethics that I had at the time. And I wanted to be a millionaire. That is what I wanted, to be a millionaire. And I was going to achieve that some way. But I wasn't a businessman. I wasn't a builder. I didn't have those sort of qualities, to be able to start, designing stuff like my grandfather could. And like I said, I was more fitness and sports orientated. But what happened one time when I was in the Territorial Army, a friend of mine, he was only 18, and I knew his girlfriend because she worked in the same leisure centre as me. They were in a club. We had a fight with somebody. And he got stabbed to death. I think that was pretty tough. But then we were doing the funeral. The unit was going to carry the coffin in full uniform, and we had to practice with this coffin. And I just couldn't do it. I thought, nah. I didn't even go to the funeral, which I'm sorry about now. But yeah, that was the first sort of. It's the second incident I had, to do with a close person dying. When I was 6, my grandfather's brother lived with us, and I found him. I was thinking about 6 or 7, and I found him dead. But I didn't really understand about dying. I just knew he was laying on the floor and he wasn't moving, and I was talking to him. And I went downstairs, and he died of a heart attack. So that sort of, and then this happened, and you just think, fucking hell, life's too short. And I started looking around, thinking, what do I want to do? And I initially wanted to be a fireman, but they weren't recruiting at the time. So I thought, oh, fuck it, I'll try the old bill. And the Met weren't recruiting, Essex was. So I applied for Essex Police and got in.
What sort of training did you have to do to get into the coppers?
I think I did 20 weeks. I did it at I'll get it right in a minute. Shotley Police Training School, which is in Suffolk. So it's like a county training facility for Essex, Cambridge, Norfolk Constabulary. So amalgamation of different forces use that training school. So it wasn't Hendon. And that was, pretty comprehensive. I think we did 10 weeks in the school, and then we came out for 5 weeks to our police stations and went on patrol with our beat officers that were going to teach us. So it was pretty intense.
What year was that?
That was 92. Yeah, 1992.
Nearly 30, over 30 years ago.
Yeah. All right, calm down.
Shit, man, showing your age, Paul. Showing your age.
But yeah, I mean, it was an eye opener. You know, the training was, as I say, the training was good, but it's you have to go on the streets to learn your trade. At the end of the day, you can do all the scenarios you want, but you know how they're going to end up because it's practice. It's different when you're on the streets.
What was the first thing you'd seen as a copper?
In my first year, I was nearly shot. I had to guard a horribly mutilated body, and I got assaulted. So those three things sort of were a steep learning curve. So nearly being shot, basically we were on night duty, and we were all in the station. No one gone out, all sitting around doing fuck all basically. And then the phone rings. Someone says, "Oh, right, okay, yeah." Put the phone down. "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, someone's wrecked their gunshots." "Fuck it, no, that's probably fireworks." Then another call. "Yeah, I think I've heard gunshots." And then another one. We think, right, okay, maybe we better go and have a look at this. So I was driving the duty inspector at the time. So we went to these block of flats in Grays, Conway Gardens, and all the lights were off. But the ground floor flat next to the entrance, the window was smashed. And it was in darkness. So we went up, just looked, couldn't see anything, heard a little noise, we thought. And we buzzed one of the other neighbours to let us through the door. So as you go in the door, this door to the flats is directly on your left. So we knocked quietly on the door, nothing, looked through the letterbox, and we both looked through the letterbox and we just heard a ch-ch-ch, like we knew what it was straight away, you know, and we just both ran, pushing each other out of the way. It was every man for himself. We were shoving each other. I didn't give a fuck that he had pips on his shoulders. I wasn't getting shot. And we just ran. We ran hell for leather back to the car, hid behind the car, called up for assistance. And it turns out that the fella had just been released from Southend Police Station. It was a domestic incident. He'd been released. He'd gone home, picked up a shotgun and a pistol. Nasty bit of work. And he'd come back to his girlfriend's flat where she was there with a 6-year-old child and her brother. He'd shot the window out, climbed through, beat the brother up, tied him up on the floor. So the noise we heard when we were looking through the window, a little scuffle, it was him on the floor tied up. And anyway, firearms teams and negotiators turned up, tried to talk him out. He's ended up going in the bathroom with the girlfriend and his child and just blew his head off. I remember going in there and it was just, it was, the blood was everywhere. And the weird thing was the girl didn't have any blood on her. Just completely clean.
How do you deal with that, the aftermath?
I
Do you
mean,
still struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. It's really difficult because, you know, I know at the current climate, no one likes the old Bill, and there's a lot of shit coming out, and these people, rightly so, should be persecuted for what they've done. You know, we'll talk about stuff that I've done, and you know, but that being in that kind of environment, being in that job, it doesn't matter who you are. People sitting there listening to me. Go and join the police and see what it's like for yourself. You can sit there and judge people like me, but unless you've been there and you've been in situations like I'm going to describe for you, then you just need to take it on board. It's not, life's not a bowl of cherries. You know, people don't play straight. You know, in that situation now, I didn't think about it at the time. I was more concerned about the kid and the woman. We went in after it was all clear. What they were taken away. And then I remember them saying that he'd lost so much blood, they had trouble back in the mortuary trying to take blood samples out of him. And then when they lifted him over, they found the pistol stuffed down his trousers. And I thought at the time, fucking hell, he could have just shot as soon as we knocked on the door. We shouldn't have knocked on the fucking door. He could have just gone bang, and we'd have both been shot dead.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, since I've been doing these podcasts over the last 5 years, that I wasn't anti-authority because I wasn't that bad, but I used to go, oh, fuck the police. But then when you actually speak to them, like undercover coppers and the strain, undercover paedophile, the guy went 20 years working the world's darkest job, I believe the strain and the stress that they go through and the things that you see, the horrors, trying to do the right thing. Listen, there's good and bad everywhere. I always say this stuff, but to people to do that job, and because I know the majority of coppers now are turning to alcohol or drugs to black out the pain, because what they see, there's not enough things in place to help them for the trauma that they see. PTSD would probably see worse things in the police than some people do in the army.
I mean, 30 years ago, there was not much about. And
Mental health.
you know, there was colleagues around me that did have mental health issues and actually had breakdowns. A sergeant who was a good copper, he just lost the plot. PC, same thing. You know, I remember that was one incident, but the first incident that I was faced with death was we had a call to a washing powder factory that a man had committed suicide in the factory, on the floor of the factory. So again, I was with my inspector, so we went down there. His colleagues were traumatised. Obviously, they've walked in. Imagine the scene. It was like like a coal train. They've got them carriages. It's sort of like that, and it was going around in a circle. But at each sort of station, there was a shaft that pumped powder into the things, and it just kept going. If you see what I mean, to make the whatever it is, the powder. And as we've walked in, this sort of train thing is stopped, but there's still like loud noise in the place. And as we looked on the floor, there was a headless corpse on the floor, and it just looked like a fucking dummy. That was my, you know what I mean? I was like, shit. And I'm trying to stay focused and listening to what's going on, but I'm staring at this body thinking, is that fucking real? Because it just didn't look real. Because the shock took over. You know, I mean, I didn't throw up. I wasn't sort of physically sick, but mentally I was like... So we had to secure the scene because we didn't know what had happened at the time. So I was tasked with guarding this body on my own. And of course, then there's no one in this big fucking warehouse. It's just for me and this body, and loud noise. And I'm starting looking and I'm thinking, shit. My colleague was downstairs, so I was by this exit door, and he was down the next floor to stop anyone coming up and coming in and obviously being faced with this situation. All of a sudden, a loud voice comes out of this body. Like, so I can't even remember because I was so frightened, I just fucking ran. I kicked through the door, ran downstairs, I went, there's something going on, you need to get the fuck up there. I panicked, so I just lost the plot. So he came back up, and what had happened was, he's got a radio on him, and someone downstairs was using the radio. But because I was focused on this body and things were going through my head, I wasn't thinking like practically. And I got the piss taken at me for that badly. You know, I was torn to pieces when I went back to the net. But the worst thing was because I'd reacted like that. Obviously, he's gone on the road and said, "Oh, Pagey's fucking shit himself." Blah blah. Where to find the head? So they made me go and look for the head and climb up on all the machinery. They turned it all off, and I found this poor fella's head, and it was resting on this piece of machinery, which was just staring at me, his eyes open. So I said, look, I found the head. So SOCO came down, and back in them days, I mean, SOCO now, scenes of crime officers, are mainly civilians, but back then it was like detectives, DCs and detective sergeants. And this old sweat come along, and he's taking pictures of the scene. Ambulance had been and obviously confirmed death, obviously. So he was waiting for the mortuary people to arrive, and he said to me, "Right, son, get up there and get that head down." I went, "Sorry?" He goes, "You're going to have to get the head down." He goes, "We need to get the head." I said, "I'm not touching that." And they were, again, I said, "No, I'm not." That was a step too far. So I knew that I didn't do it, but the head was recovered. But then I started thinking about who this person was, and this is where it gets you. Because it's all right dealing with a horrific scene, but then you start to think, oh, fuck, he had a wife, he had family. What are they going to think? You know what I mean? And then that's what hits you. You start thinking about the people that are left behind and the situation that's occurred. Now, I never got to find out whether or not it was an accident or whether he committed suicide. What I do know is he'd only just come back of a Jamaican holiday, 2-week holiday. So he's still in holiday mode. But now his wife's faced with being told that her husband's never going to come home again. Mm-hmm. So the situations when you're dealing with them, you can deal with them at the time, but like you just said, it's up here when that starts to affect that is when you start to go off piste. And you can be as impartial as you want. And a police officer can come and go and say, well, it's part of the job. Well, it might be part of the job, but it still affects normal people. If you're not affected, you're fucking nuts. It's as simple as that.
How hard is it going to see families and tell them that they've lost loved ones?
I've only ever been there once, luckily. Say luckily. It wasn't. It was a road accident, victim of a road accident. I think he was about 20. And usually traffic do it, but on this occasion we did it. And it was horrific. It was Absolutely horrific. People know as soon as they open the door and police officers are standing there, it's either two things: someone's been nicked or someone's dead, or that's what people usually think. And it was not a good place to be. Those kind of jobs you've got to be solid. And because if you start being affected in front of these people, it's going to make things 10 times worse. So that was a very unpleasant situation for me. I can deal with the blood and gore, but it's the surrounding, it's the effects outside that I was always sort of thinking about. But yeah, like I said, back then you couldn't go in and go, oh, I'm feeling a bit low. Or that. They'd go, what the fuck are you talking about? That's the job, get on with it. That's how it was. There wasn't all this, and I'm going to say touchy, feely, but there are people out there that need help. And back then, it's like back in the 90s, society changes over the years, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what was acceptable back then is definitely not acceptable now in terms of policing, in terms of social, activities of what people do and who people want to express themselves as they want to express themselves. So back then, there's a lot of people that didn't have the help that they needed. And like I said, I knew probably when I went to Marylebone, another couple of people had mental issues. And one was found carrying underneath his fucking table in his front room because he never reported for duty. Loads of paperwork, because the paperwork got to him. He couldn't control the paperwork and he just kept taking it home and hiding it. And in the end, he lost the plot. The worst one was a good friend of mine. Boyce, his nickname was, at Royal Protection. I'm going to say Boyce, I'm not going to hide who he is, but I'm not going to say his real name, but everyone knows who worked with me, who it was. And he was such a funny bloke. Such a funny bloke. He was the laugh and soul of the party. But when he came to royalty, he had a couple of weeks off, and I think they said it was depression or something like that. We didn't really think too much of it. We thought, right. So we didn't know him at the time, but thinking, right, he's got suffering from depression or stress or something, and they've given him a fucking gun. Is that right? But when he came up, you wouldn't, like most people with depression, it doesn't show on the outside, it's on the inside. You could be the funniest fucker ever, but inside you're dying. And this is what he was like. He was the life and soul of the party. He clicked straight away as soon as he came on the unit, which was a clicky unit. If you was a knobhead, you're going. It's as simple as that. But he was so funny. But inside he was in pain. And he transferred to Windsor Castle. And then I think someone told me on New Year's Eve, his family went out for a party. He didn't go. He went down the end of the shed and killed himself with a shotgun. And you think, fucking hell, we thought he was all right. It was a nice bloke. So you can never tell who's got what issues. You know what I mean? He was obviously suffering, but he used to make people laugh. So although he was dying inside, he was making people laugh.
He killed himself in his own shed, or the ones?
Yeah, his own shed. Yeah. So I think his family found him. Yeah.
Do you not get mental health tests before you're working with some of the royal family? Well, could he not have potentially turned on one of the family?
Well, listen. I was hurt when I got arrested and my wife was put in the door. I was hurt. I got to the stage we'll go through it. I thought I was above the law. I turned corrupt. I corrupted police officers. I corrupted civilians through the need to get my money back. And I'll sort of go through that. But at the end of the day, with like mental tests, I don't know what it's like now, but back then there was no sort of, you don't sit down with psychiatrists. It was your eye test, your fitness test, hearing test, and your firearms test. They all had to be checked every 3 months or whatever it was. And if you failed any of those, you can't carry a gun. As for individuals within the unit, there were a few people I did think, why the fuck has he got a gun? You know what I mean? He shouldn't be let loose with a fucking pencil sharpener, let alone a gun. Yeah. Some people had attitudes. Some people were rude. I've always been of the opinion that treat people like, as most people do, treat people like you want to be treated yourself. Your attitude affects my attitude, affects your attitude. Do you know what I mean? So if I come in strong with you, you're going to get the ump and think, well, why are you talking to me like that for? You don't have to be like that. You just be normal with people. A couple of fellas, one bloke, his nickname was Harry the Bastard. I mean, that tells you it all. It was fucking embarrassing, we'd stand on post and basically your job is to let people in and out of the palace securely. Protect the royal family, obviously, and make sure you keep the integrity of the palace secure. The security of the palace is bang on. But you also got tourists coming up to you every 5 minutes wanting photographs. I mean, it was funny at first, but after the fucking 10,000th one, you're fucking like, oh mate, but you still do it. You still do it because why should you? You know, I know people say, oh, the numpty's on the gates. No. We're all seasoned coppers. We've been there, seen it, done it. We've chose to come to this position for all our own reasons. But they're members of the public, they're tourists. They've come to see a site. Why spoil it for them and be rude to them? You don't need to do that. And some people were like that. And I used to hate working with them because it's embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? You think, don't talk to people like that. I can't start referencing a colleague in front of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, you got some fucking oddballs that did work up. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to lie.
So how did you end up involved with working with the royal family?
Okay, so I was at Marylebone. And I suppose maybe we should just start off from Essex and what happened, you know, how I progressed into the Met. So in Essex, we're going to go down the road of now, you know, there's two types of corruption. You know, I credit Michael Gillard for what I'm about to say now because it's in his book, The Untouchables, about the anti-corruption command. But there's two types of corruption. There's bent for self and there's bent for the job. I don't know if you've ever heard them terms.
No, can you explain them? Okay,
so bent for self is corruption. In corruption terms, is a copper who's out for himself, who's liaising with criminals, who's stealing. When you go and do a raid, he's having after coke away or after money away, stuff like that. Yeah, selling information to criminals for personal gain. Yeah, bent for the job is noble cause corruption, which back in the 90s, Paul Condon even said publicly, look, police officers getting pissed off with the courts not putting proper sentences, giving proper sentences to criminals. So they're getting out when they should be getting jail and they're, you know, carrying on what they were doing. We're wasting our time. So police officers would bridge the gap with evidence. For example, if you know someone's bang at it and they're a fucking nuisance on your patch and you see them at it for 2 a.m, right, a burglar, and you're watching them and they're not really doing anything, they're hovering around, they're looking for an opportunity, well, I've just seen you fucking try and open that window. Yeah? You have them for attempted burglary or make a false statement basically of assault on police or whatever. That's what happens. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you're bending the rules to sort of I don't know, scoop wrong uns up, you want to call it that. You know they're at no good, but you can't prove it at the time. Or so you suspect. Let's say it like that way. I mean, this fella could have done 10 burglaries, but he could be walking home from a night on the piss. You don't know. But that's sort of, you know, examples. I mean, I got myself, and as I said to you about, I dealt with a situation. It was a kid, 14, 15, and we got called to Grays railway station, and he was laying on the tracks, laying next to the tracks. He was pissed. He was like off his head. So we scooped him up, and he was, I fucking want to die. He was 15. He was only a kid. I was thinking, what the fuck's the matter with him? And he was a right little shit. We got him up and he was fighting and he was this and he was that. So we got him back. So get in the fucking car, we take him back to the police station, called the social services. And anyway, they came out and it turned, they didn't say anything at the time. The next night, he's back again. He's fucking causing mayhem, nicking stuff out of 7-Eleven, running down the road, throwing bottles. It was like being a right fucking nuisance. So anyway, we scooped him up again. And I thought, what are we arresting for? A breach of the peace or something, just to get him off the fucking street. Called the social service again, look, what the fuck's going on with this kid? And they sat us down and said, listen, his dad was a member of a paedophile ring that murdered a kid. And he's in jail now, but what happened was they'd passed this poor lad, the dad had passed the kid around to all his mates. He was subjected to horrific abuse. And that was fucking horrible. When I heard that was the first sort of, excuse me, let's cut that bit out. That was the first time I come across an actual victim of a sex crime, you know, rolling around on the streets with piss heads and all the rest of it. That's one thing. But when you're now faced with the reality of how evil people can be, like really evil to children, it fucks with your head. So in the police, you're sworn to the, you know, your loyalty to the Queen and country, and you swear that you're going to protect life and property. You know what I mean? And you're going to be impartial no matter what. You're going to be impartial. Well, unfortunately for me, I wasn't strong enough to be impartial, and I deviated from the fucking script. So once sort of I got involved with this boy, or we did. Every time we get called out to nick, and we'd say, no, when they were nicking from 7 away, we'd just square the shopkeeper away. We're not nicking him anymore. We're trying to look after him. And then we started identifying sex cases and paedophiles that are on our patch. And I remember one incident where we were called to a school, and this dirty fucker had passed a note through the fence to a 9-year-old child, and it basically said what he wanted to do to her and what he wanted her to do to him downstairs and all that shit. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, you fucking dirty cunt. Next time I saw him in Gray's High Street on a night duty, and I was on foot patrol, so I see him hovering around, and I just went up to him and went, "Come here, you." And he went, "What's the matter?" I went, "Would you slap me? Tell me to fuck off, you pig, did you?" And I just fucking threw him on the floor. Court said, "You're arrested for assault on police." I fucking made it up. I did. I'll be honest with you. I'd read his collator's card before that, and the things that he'd done, the acts that he'd committed, and I felt physically fucking sick. And I was faced with this piece of shit. I couldn't help myself. I needed to lock him up. So I called the van up, put him in the back of the van, and he had a clump. And then we arrested him. Well, we took him back to the police station and charged him just with Section 4. We didn't go with assault on police, Section 4 public order, and got him off. I said, "That's him. He's locked away in there, so fuck him." And then it wasn't all the time, but every now and again when we came across sick individuals, another one, he was fucking horrible. I mean, when I read his sheet, it was just as bad as the other ones. I mean, there's standards in life, isn't there? An ordinary human being does not do these things. So therefore, in my eyes, that every time I see these people, they've got to be terrorised. They've got to be fucking, I'm watching you. You know, it wasn't always getting a clump, but it was like, I'm watching you. Where the fuck are you going? Make sure they're on their toes. Do you know what I mean? They're if they're going to do anything, they're going to be looking, man, they're going to be fucking having to think hard and fast if they're going to do it or not. I mean, the old saying, we used to beat them up, stitch them up and lock them up. And I'm not sorry for that. I'm not sorry for what I did. On the other side of the coin, I didn't subject people to police brutality. I think as a police officer, the most important asset you've got is your job. Yeah. So if you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis, there's no need to be a rude fucker. There's no need to have an attitude. If you haven't got confidence in yourself, physical confidence, then some people, because they haven't got physical confidence, like they've never sort of been in the gym, been in the ring and stuff like that, so they're not physically capable. They've got the uniform. They think because it says police written on it, they're fucking invincible. No, you're not. And I had people with me that would start a fucking fight in an empty room. They didn't have anything about them, but they didn't know how to communicate with people. So they gave the wrong impression over, and they gave an attitude. And that attitude, like I said before, affects your attitude, affects my attitude, and you raise the bar to the point where now you're arresting someone when you didn't need to. So when I sort of, there was like-minded officers, the same as me, but these sort of people, it wasn't often. It was every now and again. So I wasn't on a crusade knocking everyone and every dirty man out. It wasn't like that. It was every now and again, if I see them or something happen, then we'd deal with them. But it was the realisation that there's some fucking horrible people out there. Another one, the worst one, or the one that I still think about, is this fella. He'd robbed someone. Horrible little fucker he was. He had a knife. I think he stabbed the fella in the hand. We caught him in the street, and we had a fight with him and got the knife off him and handcuffed him. And he'd stolen about £6, but we couldn't find the money. So we said to him, right, we're going to have to strip search her. And he got previous for locking a kid in a fucking cupboard in his flat. You know what I mean? The kid, a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid or something that was a neighbour, locked him in a fucking cupboard, the weirdo. So he goes, "You ain't searching me." I said, "We're going to have to, mate." Anyway, he started fighting. As we took his clothes off, he had a fucking bra on. And then we realised why he was fighting. We took his jeans off. He's got fucking knickers on the suspenders, right? So we've left him in, because he was an horrible cunt. We just left him in that gear and chucked him in the cell, kept his clothes and put him in there in the stockings and suspenders, right? Didn't give him a paper suit. Fuck you. And then we found out. We went on the crime reports, and we found out that women were reporting their underwear being stolen off their washing lines. What was this fucking nut? And when we went round his ass, he had tons of fucking knickers and bras, and you know what he's done to them, didn't you? Do you know what I mean? You think, oh. So we went back to, and I said to the sergeant, "Listen, we've got to remind him. We can't bail him, because back then the sergeant or the inspector would decide whether or not you're getting bail or we'll charge you. We're going to keep you in custody and put you before the court." And the sergeant said, no, I'm just going to bail him. And I said, fucking don't. I said, he's a dirty, horrible, he's just a wrong one. And anyway, they bailed him. He never turned up for fucking bail, right? Never turned up to court. Charged him and bailed him. Never turned up for court. I then transferred to the Met. And then I hear on the news, this same piece of shit there was a hotel called the Cumberland Hotel, I think it was, and that was literally adjoining my police station, Marylebone. He'd gone in there and he'd raped a woman in a hotel room. And they caught him in Sussex in a stolen MR2. And I'm thinking, fucking hell.
I had that woman, Sarah Sands, on a couple of weeks ago. Old man abused her 3 sons. He'd over nearly 30 crimes over 40 years. Abused her sons. He got bail.
Yeah.
She went round to say to him, look, admit this, or my sons need to go through all this torment again. He was calling her sons a liar. He says, no, they're telling lies. And then she done him, man, killed him. She got 3.5 years, but while she was doing her 3.5 years, they doubled her sentence. She got 7 years.
Fucking hell. Yeah. I mean, the trouble you've got is people don't realise these individuals, it's a sex offender and a paedophile. It's built into their DNA, as far as I believe. That's what I believe. It's built into their DNA. You cannot rehabilitate these kind of people, no matter what you do. My priority is the victims, because these people are giving people life's fucking sentences at the end of the day. You know, the survivors, a lot of them, you know, they try and get over it, but there are a lot that don't, you know, and ultimately commit suicide. Why are we, as a society, not making sure these people are locked up for long periods of time? You know, they use this buzzword, safeguarding. Safeguarding, to me, is locking these fuckers up when they've done their first offence, you know, like incitement to, you know, meet a child for sex, whatever they call it, you know, that should be a 5-year sentence straight away, and you should do 5 years. Yeah, it's we need to safeguard the kids. These people have got too many rights. They've got too many things going for them that they're not going to get. They know they're not going to get locked up. Yeah. You know, it's like child porn. Again, 5-year sentence. If you get caught with any form of child porn on your phone or on your computer, you should be banged up for 5 years. You get caught again, 10 years. Get these people off the streets. Yeah, because at the end of the day, they are not going to change. They are not going to change. And how many, if you go through the records, how many reoffend? Fucking most of them. Yeah. Most of them. They're not going to change.
But the UK sentences are too lenient. The UK here, we give them community service. Yeah. We can let them change their name for under 20 quid, and then they're back out harming other kids. Places like Russia, they're getting a life sentence for touching a kid once. Australia's taking their passports, their driver licence, where you can't leave the country. The UK protect them. Why? Yeah. Like, it's so deranged. Even in Scotland, we had a guy raping 2 women, put a wig on, goes to court, and they try to put him in a female prison, and people are actually defending him, saying he's got feelings. Fuck his feelings. He should be getting locked up, thrown away the key. I've always said this, that with the death penalty, bring it back for sex offenders. Like you say, they can't change the mindset. It's scientifically proven they can't change that. No matter what happens, 2 year sentence, 3 year sentence ain't going to change the way they think about kids. They should be put elsewhere. They should. People should have the rights to know who's getting put into their streets, who's getting put into teachers, and people are just changing identities now, and it's too easy for sex offenders and sex cases to then go around kids. You've got all the transvestites and drag queens around kids. Like, majority of them might have good intentions, but kids shouldn't be around drag queens while their dicks are out, their tits are out, they're wearing stockings and thongs, and that's not right for a kid. A kid shouldn't be seeing that. And I'll say this, I don't have anything against anybody, as long as I'm not harming anyone and bringing kids involved, then do what you want. Like, do you see that method of thinking as deranged? Like, you see them like where there's no, you're never going to change it. Anybody ever came forward? Because I think there was somebody on Twitter who had the tendencies of being attracted to kids and basically a paedophile, but he'd never acted on it, but he can still watch his sister's kids, his other brother's kids, but he spoke out about it. He has those thoughts, but he doesn't act on it. Do you think people have ever came forward to get help, to say that I need help? Because how hard is it when you've got an addiction or whatever from drink or drugs or gambling to come forward and admit something?
That's a grey area. That's a hard one.
Do you think there should be more things in place for people?
Yeah.
But whether people would come forward and say they've got those tendencies is a different story. But do you think there should be enough things in place for people to go?
Oh, definitely. If there's something in place where people who have got the tendency can be identified themselves to these people, then that's what we need. We don't want them running around under the radar with these tendencies, because they might at some stage act on them. You know, I've always been of the opinion that the most important person in these type of situations is the survivor. Yeah, the person who's the perpetrator, at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, you've got no rights. You gave up your rights to as an ordinary, decent human being, to be protected by the law when you touched a child, or you looked at child pornography. But therefore, to safeguard these people, which are the priority, you are going to be locked up for a long time. And what we should do is people with drug habits, minor criminals, petty thieves, they should be put on community service, take them out of the prisons and put these fuckers in their cells. Yeah, because that way they're off the streets. They don't need to be supervised by the police. Yeah, in terms of having to check on these people. Let the prisons deal with them. Lock them up, 5 years, 10 years, life, whatever. I don't really give a fuck as long as they're off the streets. Because the question that I'd ask anyone is, if you're at a bus stop with your kids, who would you rather be stood next to? Someone with a drug problem, or a petty thief, or a fucking paedophile, or a sex case? It's a simple answer, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as I said, I've explained that I've what I've done with sex cases, and unfortunately, I don't regret what I did. It's not right. It's legally it was wrong, completely wrong. Morally is a different sort of question.
Yeah, I would back you all day for what you've done.
And I'm not defending myself what I did, but if you understand when you're in that environment, I mean, the bravest police officers that you could ever have are the ones that do child sex crimes and women who have been sexually abused, raped. That is a tough gig. CO19 firearms officers, anti-terrorism coppers, all the singing, all dancing, tough guys. No, those people, those individuals that are doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I've got ultimate respect for all police officers, but those individuals that have got the mental strength to do that, mate. When I've read things that these people have done, it wasn't good.
What's it like interviewing a paedophile?
Luckily, I haven't done that. I've read evidence in a file.
Do you think you could hold your temper?
No, I couldn't. No, I'll admit, mate, I'm not. I wasn't the best police officer.
Why are you so passionate about it?
I just think it's the worst crime you could commit. It's the fucking worst crime you could ever commit. Right, touching a kid or looking at that sort of stuff. That's something. I don't believe in God and I don't believe in the devil, but if there was a devil, I'd say these are the fucking disciples. Do you know what I mean? And I, as I said, having read stuff and having been briefed on what had happened to a kid and what they did to him, and being in front of the kid and seeing the state of him, I mean, that to me is my worst nightmare, to see someone like that. So then to be faced, even though I'm in police uniform, to be faced with a piece of shit that perpetrates these crimes, I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't professional enough to just fucking let it go. Yeah, I wasn't professional enough. And this is where we come into impartiality. And then obviously you're not a good police officer, you're a fucking uniform, you're a vigilante. Probably was all those things. What can I fucking say? I'm not a saint, as we'll soon find out. But I have a set of principles. Do you know what I mean? And three of them is, don't hit coppers, don't hit old people, women, or sexually abuse kids. Any of those things you do, then you're in trouble. It's as simple as that. Now, old school criminals knew what the score was back in the day. If they hit a copper, they're going to get a double clump. They know what the score is and they accept it because that's part and parcel of, back in them days. Nowadays, it's completely different. People go, oh, fucking police hitting people. I don't agree with police brutality, right? I don't agree with it in any way, shape or form. Yeah. But there's certain times in a police officer's life where he's going to have to use sheer fucking violence. It's either you or the individual, And I've got a problem with the police in today's sort of society. And I've always had it really in terms of a police officer should be as fit as fuck. He should look the part, yeah. If I see Fat Boy walking down the road with his hat on, I'm thinking, what are you going to do? If your colleague's having his head kicked in 100 metres away, you're not getting there. You owe it to yourself as a police officer, as a human being. But when you step into that uniform, you owe it to yourself, your family, your colleagues, and the public to be as fit as you can be. Yeah, not an orange on a toothpick, not a fucking little skinny person or a big fat blob. You need to be fit. Get yourself down to a certain level, a decent level of fitness. The police fitness test is a joke. The police self-defence training is a joke. It's all worrying about if someone gets hurt, we might get sued. Listen, if these people are worried about getting hurt, get the fuck out of here. Because when you go on road and you're in a fight, and I've seen it, police officers freeze. My personal opinion is you should be, you know, obviously you've got a good communication skills. That's your, you know, they say your tactical options, like your baton and your asp or your spray or your taser there. Firstly, it's your gob. You've got to be able to talk to people. Because most of the time I would be able to talk to people reasonably. I was confident in my own physical abilities. I'm not a fucking hard nut, but I could fight. I was a fighter. I've trained for years, day in, day out, 2-3 hours a day. So I'm confident. I've, you know, my nose is flat. I've had, you know, I can take a punch. So if someone hit me, it wouldn't faze me. But some of these people that are in the job, they've never had any kind of physical confrontation. Now they're stepping into the lion's den. Like I said, life's not a bowl of fucking cherries. You're going to come across people like that are nasty, horrible, bad people, and they will turn around and knock your teeth down your throat. So there's an element for me that the self-defense training, people should get their asses down the gym, go boxing, do UFC training, you know, all that kind of stuff. Learn proper, you know, learn how to take a punch and learn how to fight properly. Because arm bars and arm locks and all this tosh they teach the police to do doesn't work when you're on your own. I mean, it might be 5 or 6 years, yeah, that's fine. But if you're on your own and it's toe-to-toe with someone and you can't fire a punch, you're fucked. I'm not advocating, as I say, I'm not advocating everyone goes out, starts whacking people. No, I'm not. I'm saying when it comes down to it, you've got two choices when you're in a life or death situation. You either fold like a deck of cards because you're worried about getting a complaint, or you end up on a fucking slab. You know, or you know, you end up on a slab.
Did you get penalised for that?
When I did assault, which is what I did, I assaulted these paedophiles and stitched them up. No, well, my colleagues were around me. We were all of the same opinion. You know, we stick together. They're dirty, fucking horrible people. I was more interested in how can you put it? See, you go to a job, the people, as I said to you before, spending time with decent people, but you see the worst in people. You join the place, you see the absolute fucking worst in people. I mean, I was from the East End. I was on the streets. You know, I've done a fair bit, but as soon as I got dropped into the, you know, the police, it was a fucking eye-opener. You know, you sort of all your thoughts that you have, you know, you've got to change. You've got to be completely and utterly impartial. And I failed on that. I put my hands up. Like I said, I just couldn't comprehend. I couldn't deal with these people. I thought, you're fucking dangerous. You're a child molester, and you're standing there and you're laughing. You think you're fucking funny. You know what I mean? So in my eyes, every time I see you, I'm going to fucking terrorise you, and you're going to know what it's like to be a fucking victim there. And it wasn't on a day-to-day basis. It was every now and again we'd see these individuals. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. One little fucker, he was going in women's clothes shops saying, "Oh, I just want to try my wife, buy something for my wife. She's the same size as me as well. If I just try it on." He would go and then start like masturbating, waiting for the woman to come over and open the curtain. I mean, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Another one sniffing around young children with a long record, and I'm thinking, he's done all this, but he's still walking the streets. What the fuck's going on?
Why do you think the sentences are too lenient in the UK?
I think a lot of it's to do with the prison population. I genuinely think that there's not enough room. The judges are given scope and say, look, we can't keep locking them up. I mean, the worst thing is, I think last year or the year before, sex offences against children and young people is at its highest it's ever been. I mean, we could say phones and the internet are a lot to blame for that. But again, the sentencing is just shit. You know, I just genuinely believe, listen, if we had a load of ex-military personnel, when you come out of prison, you got fuck all. You go and see a probation, there's no motivation. In jail, you go to work, you come back to cell, you go gym. Do you know what I mean? You've got a set sort of routine. When you come out of jail, you've got nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, sort of people with drug habits, they should be dealt with on the outside, gutter clinks, but they should be given, if you had ex-army people working off the probation service that were motivators, that maybe got them jobs in warehouses. There's plenty of fucking jobs in warehouses and shops and stuff like that. Pick them up in a minibus from wherever they are, drop them off in the morning, pick them up at night. Give them a fucking routine when they come out, because they come out to nothing. And what do? They revert to type. They go back to the same environment and pick up where they left off, because they've got nothing to change that environment. Some do, don't get me wrong. There's other people who think, do you know what, fucking hell, I can't be going back in there.
Yeah. So you've done that for 6 years, 92 to 98?
I did, Essex from 92 to 95, and then I transferred to the Met in 95, went to Marylebone, and that was completely different.
What's different from the beat to the Met?
Because when in the county forces like Essex, and you know everyone. So I was at Grays, I knew every copper at Ockenden, I knew every copper at Corringham, Tilbury. So we all knew if there was a knobhead in one of the police station, we know who they were, or grass or someone like that. Do you know what I mean? We couldn't trust. We'd know. When you go to the Met, you're not a fucking name anymore. You're just a number, because there's so many of you. But again, with Essex, as I was saying to you, people go, "Oh, he's fun." Listen, right? I've only ever, and my colleagues have only ever had proper scraps when we've had to. One of the reasons, main reasons, because there's not enough of us to start proper. You know what I mean? When you're in Essex, you've got to be able to talk to people, because your backup might be 10 minutes away. So you've got to have good communication skills. You know you're going to nick this person, but you can't do anything yet because you need backup. So you have to have good communication skills. And if you're and in the Met, it's not so. That's why it had a bad reputation back in the day for people abusing, the public, because you'd get someone who started, like I said to you before, would start a fucking fight in an empty room like a copper, because he's got bad communication skills.
What makes a good copper?
You've got to be well-rounded. You've got to have life experience. I personally think ex-military, someone who's from a sporting background, or you can have people from officers from all walks of life. You've got to have that sort of combination, I know. But a good copper is someone who can speak. I keep coming back to it. But if you can talk someone down rather than handcuff them on the floor and have a scrap, then you're winning, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? Winning friends and influencing people, that's what they say.
Mm-hmm. So when did you join the royal family?
I went from Marylebone to 98. I went to Royal Protection.
What was that decision?
Why I made that decision?
Yeah.
As I said to you, because I was from an old school sort of policing environment, so people will know back in the 90s what happens if you hit a copper. You're going to get a double clump, because who else is there to protect us but us? So our mindset was that if you're a sort of police officer, then you're going to get a fucking hard smack. So there was a thing back in the day called a reception committee. So if you've hit someone, a police officer, you just call up on the radio reception committee. Everyone goes back to the police station. They line up, and as you bring this person through, they get a fucking clump off of everyone before they get into the custody office. Was it justified? Was it right? Yes and no. As I say, I'm only going to be honest in my own opinion. Other people might say, "Well, you fucking cunt." Well, that's my opinion. Yeah. No one else is going to protect us. And if you don't, in our eyes, back then, it was different society, as I said. If you don't teach this individual that assaulting a police officer, you're going to get hurt yourself, it will carry on doing it. And it could kill someone at the end of the day. An example would be, one fella, he was a nice bloke. He was a beat officer. And he used to go around to the schools and the old people's homes and do all the stuff that, people want to see a police officer. He didn't want to be running around in police cars and, with sirens on. He just wanted a quiet life, riding a bike, which is fine. He wasn't physically capable either, if you know what I mean. He was just a nice bloke. And his nickname was Wilf, because they called him Wilf because he was always in old people's homes eating tea and cake. And on one particular occasion, he was on a night duty. He was on his own, single crewed. And all the local yobs knew him and used to take the piss out of him because he didn't have anything about him. Anyway, he's gone to this disturbance one night and they've just kicked the absolute fuck out of him. Absolutely battered him. Do you know what I mean? For no good reason. So we went down there, we systematically got on one by one and we fucking smashed it to pieces. And as far as I'm concerned, rightly so. 10 people onto one police officer. Yeah? No, you've got to set an example. You've got to set an example to these fucking thugs that don't care about the law. they're terrorising old people, they're fucking robbing people, and they're doing this, that, and the others. Do you know what I mean? You've got to cut the head off the snake. That's what we thought. Well, that's how we were back in them days. It wasn't about going around beating everyone up. It wasn't. It was about when you're involved with dangerous people that are willing to go and do that to a police officer, you've got to fight fire with fucking fire and close them down and shut them down and put them back in their place and make them understand, if you do that, this is what we're going to do. And that's how it was. So I've gone to the Met. Similar thing happened. 2 British Transport Police officers were viciously assaulted by 4 scumbags. They beat the shit out of them at Oxford Circus train station. So I turned up with a colleague. We was in a Sherpa van. Back then, we just had bench seats. It didn't have cages or anything like that. And they've put one of these scumbags in the back of our van. I've jumped in the back, but unbeknownst to me, a female officer from Holborn had got into the passenger seat. I didn't know who she was. So that was my mistake, because if you're going to deal with something the way we, as I said, we deal with it, make sure you're with your own people. I didn't see her get in the van anyway. So I had a conversation with this fella, explained to him, I'm going to take the cuffs off and we're going to have a fucking straightener. You know, again, I'm not being a big man or anything like that, but that's how it was. It's just, mate, you can't go around. Look, the state of them 2 officers, for no good reason, because you're pissed up and you was hassling people, and they've come to ask you to fuck off home nicely, and you've turned on them. All right, so we ended up having a scrap, and I knocked him out. And this officer had heard me say about a straightener and something other, and then she heard the scuffle, but she couldn't see exactly what had gone on. But she looked round and he was uncuffed and he was unconscious. And she'd reported it to her inspector. And back in them days, it was just starting to come where officers were, the supervisors before would sort of fuck it off and say, listen, go and sit down, don't worry about it, and leave it, and wouldn't take the complaint any further. But this time, this inspector did. And I got word that anti-corruption were coming down to interview me about an assault. So I wrote my statement out, because what they do is they'll come down and goes, all right, listen, it's not nothing bad, but we should have a little chat off the record. What happened? And they're fucking all mic'd up. Do you know what I mean? You know, for any officers out there, never ever talk to the anti-corruption command unless it's on tape, and always have your prepared statement. I said, no, it's in the statement, Chief Inspector. He goes, oh, right. I said, I can't say anything more, sir. Just read the statement. That's what I remember, or I'll read it for you. So it's all right. And then he said to me, all right, the person that I had a scrap with didn't make a complaint about me. He got charged with assault on police, but never mentioned a word about what happened. All right, so it wasn't a complaint from him. It was just this officer. He said, all right, well, look, we're gonna let this go this time. He said, I know what you fucking did. He goes, I understand why you did it. I said, but you can't fucking do these things anymore. He goes, they're taught at training school now. Officers coming through training school that if they see something they don't like, they need to report it to a supervisor. And I just thought, okay, my sort of way I thought, which is rightly or wrongly, loyalty to my colleagues and whatever else. I just thought, I'm done. I was quite wealthy at the time. You know, I was importing Porsches and Mercedes, and because I wanted to be a millionaire, as I said, I was buying and selling property. I had a nice car, 2 nice cars, Mercedes. So I had money wrapped around me. Did I need to stay in the job? Not really, but I did because I loved the environment. I loved the people I worked with.
Do you think you loved the violence though? And you got away with it a bit more because you were a copper?
No, I did. Most of the violence I did was in the ring. You know, I boxed for the Met. I won the heavyweight title. So the violence that I did was on people that would attack police officers, or we had to fight them. Most of the time, we would restrain them properly and deal with them properly. Like I said, at the end of the day, I don't want to disrespect people, but if I'm arresting you, you're going to have to come with me one way or another. You know, what do? You can't, and no, not everyone's going to come quietly. You know, and I don't, if I can put someone in cuffs quickly and safely and get them away, then that's what I'm going to do. It's the point where you're going to have a fist fight with this person because there's 2 of you, it's dangerous and whatever else. And you're going to have to take care of business, or try to anyway. Don't get me wrong, I've been flung about and all the rest of it. But sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, as I said to you.
Do you think that's years and years of being in the job, you kind of lose yourself though?
Yeah, you do. You can lose yourself.
And you forget what you're actually there for?
Yeah, I did. I lost myself. Do you know what I mean? I lost the qualities that you should have to be a police officer. I did. What can I say?
Is that the last straw then in the van? Like
Well,
you say,
yeah,
you've got
yeah,
money, you've got property,
yeah,
you've got cars.
yeah.
Why not just live
As
the
I
other
said,
life?
I said, I got in the environment of being a police officer, and I enjoyed the camaraderie. I mean, we was, you know, everyone back in the days, we used to have a good laugh and all the rest of it. And you know, when the chips were down, we were there for each other. And you know, as I said, that's when it came to you know, when it came to looking after each other. That's how it went. I'm not saying that's standard across the board for all police officers. No, it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? You know, we were certain officers had the same mindset. You know, you can't tar what I did back in the day. You can't tar everyone with the same brush. You know, but I didn't want to get assaulted anymore. I mean, the reason again, I got assaulted when I was in the first year of my job. I went and tried to deal with this fella who was drunk and disorderly. I said, look, you know, though I could take care of myself, I was too frightened to actually use my skills that I knew I could use, because I was just a young cop. I was brand new. I didn't want to get in trouble, and because of that fear, I let this individual get too close to me, and he headbutted me, and we ended up having a scrap, and I held him, but I was shaken. Usually, I can deal with calmness. If we're dealing with a violent situation, the most important thing is to be calm and focus and know what you're doing. It's when you're not calm and it's when you're not focused is when the person you're trying to restrain gets hurt. Yeah? And the most important thing in a violent situation is to secure that person. Yeah? It's not to hurt them unless you have to fucking restrain them.
So what happens then after that event?
He got off at court. Not guilty. I went to Snaresbrook, and probably I didn't give my evidence like I should have done. I was young in the job or whatever else. You know, and I thought, you know what, that's the first and last time I'm going to get assaulted in the name of the law.
Was that when you decided to work for the Royal Family?
No, that was in Essex, and then obviously I went to the Met, and then that incident happened with the van incident, and then I rung a friend of mine who was on the Royal Protection Squad, and he was running the self-defence training up there, and he said, why don't you come up and run it with me? Obviously as a Royal Protection officer, so that's what I did. I said, yeah, fuck the streets, I've had enough. And I went out to Royalty. It was quite an easy, as I say, you know, the Masonic influence back in the day was quite strong. It wasn't like what you know, it was who you know. And so I was given the answers to the questions I was going to be asked in the interview. I was given pictures of members of the Royal Family, and they wrote the names, so I knew. So there was two sergeants and two civilians, like admin people. So the two police knew that I was clued up, but these two didn't. So they were asking me all these questions, and I was going bum bum bum. God, he knows everything, doesn't he? And yeah, that's how I got straight in. But went up there for a day first, just to have a look around and let people have a look at you, because it's quite a cliquey environment. I mean, I remember it's it's a well-paid job. Royal Protection is well paid.
How much we're talking?
You can earn upwards of 70 grand a year. Yeah, you can smash it. Because the protection has to be at a certain level. So the overtime they were paying there, if it couldn't go between a certain level, the amount of officers on post, it had to be that level. So if they were short, they would pay for overtime and all the rest of it. And Scotland, they would go up to Balmoral, Birkhall. So you could earn a serious amount of money. We used to drive past when I was at Marylebone. We used to drive past the fellas on the gate thinking, fucking hell, look at them, what a boring job. And when I got up there, they said, and I told that story, I said, yeah, we used to look at you lot going, look at them fucking idiots working for a living. and it was true, And when I went in there was a lot of old officers in there, do you know what I mean? My mate said, oh, come up, it's a hoot, we'd have a laugh. I went up there, it looked like a fucking scene from Cocoon. I walked into a fucking old people's home. I've come off of the streets, fresh from the streets, like with a bit of swagger, and I've walked into an old people's home. I was like, fucking hell.
Did that calm you down, that job?
Yeah, it did. It calmed me down. I went on a firearms course, and 2-week intensive firearms course, which you had to pass. And went there, and it was a good time, but it was old school coppers on there, which is, I said about old school, and I was whatever things I did, but it was old school, so everyone was clicked in together. And discretion was the word. But when you join Royal Protection, you're not a police officer anymore. You're now part of the royal household. Therefore, your loyalty is to the Queen and the family, and that environment, which is a very different sort of environment to policing. You know, it's very different because you're not policing anymore. You're not looking
Protect and serve, you're more a servant.
You're not being proactive anymore in terms of going out looking for crime. That's not your role anymore. Your role is to protect the Queen and the integrity of the palace. You know.
What was your first day like?
My first day, I got put on post with these two older coppers, both a pair of tubby blokes, and one was nicknamed was Doug the Slug, right? And so we're on post at the side door at Buckingham Gate, and they're standing there looking at the people going by, and I was like, trying to settle into this new role, and all of a sudden these two cars one shunted this car, went boom like that. Everyone goes, oh! I went, fucking hell. And they just turned around and looked the other way. I went, we're not going over these. Listen, what's on this side of the line, we worry about it. What's on that side of the line, the locals worry about it. So keep your fucking nose out. I was like, you can't do that. So I just went over there and made sure everyone was all right, and then waited for the local police to come along. Went back over there, said, what did we fucking tell you? I said, you can't be doing things like that. If you want to do that, piss off back to division. I was thinking, really? You know, and that's what it was like. It was like, fucking no. You're in there, you're not out there.
How many police work in Buckingham Palace at one time?
I said this before on Lad Bible, and people started going mad. He's delivering, he's telling secrets and all that. Listen, mate, it's 30 years ago, right? It doesn't matter if I tell you there was 30 police officers there or 300. It doesn't matter. You know, there's usually about 30 on shift. And then obviously you've got to remember that back then there was sophisticated alarm systems and all kinds of things that obviously I'm not going to go into detail, but there's a lot of things in place after Fagan had got in. So, you know, it'd be pretty difficult. You'd be tracked. If you entered any part of the palace, you'd be tracked literally until we got to you. You know, there's a lot of procedures, a lot of lockdown that would happen, and helicopters and dogs and, you know what I mean? It'd be surrounded in fucking minutes. So yeah, it's you'd have about 30 on shift at any one time, armed obviously, and yeah, it was. I never really. There was a time someone said to me, "Oh, did anyone ever get in the palace when you was there?" And they did. I forgot. It was Fathers for Justice. I think a fella in a Batman costume managed to get on the colonnade and climb along. I don't think the Queen was in that day, but but we tracked him. We could see him. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he got in and we didn't know who it was. He just climbed up, come along. The alarms all went off, and he was tracked. And yeah, that was on the news.
Who lived in the palace when you were working?
The Queen, Prince Philip, and Prince Andrew, which I was there 6 years, so I saw him on a fairly regular basis.
And he's the main talking point, isn't he, Prince Andrew? Like, how was he treated?
He wasn't well liked. He's a fucking plum, if I'm going to be honest. He was rude, obnoxious. I know I've said it in loads of interviews. He was a rude, obnoxious individual. He's just a nasty, horrible little man. He's never heard the word no in his life, you know. And I always said if Prince Philip has stuffed the bar of soap in his gob the first time he told a servant to fuck off, most of this probably wouldn't have happened. You know, he had the run of the place. I never really had any problems with any other members of the royal family in the way I did before. Or not just me, all of us, you know. He was just a horrible individual. He was so rude when there was no need to be rude, you know. And I couldn't believe the first time he told me to fuck off. I went, really? I was like, what? If that was on the streets, he'd be getting folded in half like a piece of paper and put in the back of a police van. And he was like that. It's like, fucking hell, that's Prince Andrew talking to us like that. It was a shock. But then you get used to it and you think, oh, because the gate wasn't open in time or the barrier didn't come down. It's like, fucking imbeciles. It's like, what are you talking about? We're here to protect you. What are you gobbing off for? You know?
What was the story before his teddy bears?
Oh, mate. So basically, we... on the weekends, the Queen and Prince Philip would go to Windsor and Andrew would fuck off as well. So the apartments were empty, royal apartments were empty. We'd have to go and do alarm checks, and then we'd have personal attack alarms. So certain places, there's buttons for them to press if there's an issue. So we had to have to go around all the bedrooms and check to make sure they're all in working order. We'd do that at the weekends. And a couple of us and the inspector went into his apartment, probably when I first went up there, I think. And he had fucking tons of teddy bears on his bed, like loads. And 72, I didn't realise it. I said 50 originally, and then the maid said no, it was 72. And I was like, fucking, what's going on here? And then the inspector said, in the drawer there, got a laminated card of picture of all these teddy bears on the bed. He goes, basically, if the maids don't put the teddy bears back exactly like this is in that picture, he goes into one, he flips. I was like, what? You know, it's just, and then you think, that's a sort of coercive behaviour, isn't it? You know what I mean? You will put my fucking teddy bears back in that place or I'm going to abuse you. And that's what he did. The maids were shit scared of him. You know? In fact, that maid, one of them who came forward, I did an ITV interview and I think that's where it came out. And the maid saw it and came forward and said, look, he's telling the truth. And, you know, he had to run up 4 flights of stairs to shut his curtains and he was sat right next to him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What's that all about?
Did you ever feel any different sort of energy with him? Like obviously working in the police force and being around all the nasty people, did you ever feel a presence that there's something not right with him? Or did you just think he was a spoiled kid?
I just thought he was a spoiled fella, a spoiled bloke. Yeah, he had no regard for people we say below him. We're all human beings, do you know what I mean? He had a title.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had a title, HRH. Just because you've got a fucking title doesn't mean you're a good person. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Was he the favourite?
Yeah. I mean, he got away with absolute fucking murder. I mean, you know, we were letting people in. We didn't know who the fuck they were. And if we said anything, we'd get told to shut up. You know, it was one of them ones. What do? You're working as a rob protection officer. If you don't like it, fuck off back to the streets and roll around with a drunk on a Friday night. Mm-hmm. You know, and where are you going with this? People were saying, you should have we made complaints to our supervisors, but where's it going to go? Who's going to go to the Queen and say, you need to reel him in? Because they'll just say, really? Fuck off. Get your kit and fuck off. You know, the commanders, royal protection commanders, not going to go to the Queen and say, Prince Andrew, this. The royal household are a machine. You know what I mean? That's what people need to understand, that you can't be going and making complaints about members of the royal family. That's just not how it is, unfortunately. You know, and, you know, if you cross them, then you're in trouble. I mean, there was things that went on there that I wasn't comfortable with. Again, there was one of the cleaners, and another thing is domestic violence. I hate people who, you know, do that to women, but she came in one day and she had a drink problem. You know, and there's a few you know, members of staff that did have drink problems, and the Queen looked after them. She's a really nice person. She knew that they were, you know, had problems, and she just turned a blind eye. And this particular cleaner came in with a black eye as I was on post in my college. And, you're all right? We should talk to him. She went, yeah, I'm all right. Didn't really want to say too much. Didn't want to talk and just went into the palace. I said, I wonder what's going on anyway. Let it go. And then a couple of weeks later, she's fucking come with another one. I went, no. I said to her, what's going on? She went, nothing. Well, her husband was a security guard down at the Mews. And then we found out he'd been knocking her about. So I went to the governor and said, listen, we have to lift him. He can't be having that. It's you know, report this domestic violence. You can't be having this. And that was it. She had a cut lip as well. He goes, I'll speak to the household. So I went up to the household and they fucking told us to leave it. He goes, I'm just going to go and have a word with him, but we're not going to do anything about it. I'm thinking, what? What do you mean you're not going to do anything? So, what, we're just going to turn a fucking blind eye to domestic abuse? We couldn't believe it. So anyways, this inspector's gone down to they had a private flat within the palace, down in the Mews. And I've had a word with him. He's come back and goes, fucking hell, the geezer's alone. I said, what do you mean? Because he's got all Nazi memorabilia all over his house, all over the flat. Like, I said, what? So anyway, we didn't leave it. We on night duty, he was working with us. So we took him down into the car park, 6 of us. And we basically said to him, listen, we know what you're doing. If your wife comes in with one more bruise, you're going to end up with 6. So we stuck it on him, and after that, she seemed okay, but I just couldn't get my head around why have we got to fucking not deal with him as if it was on road, it'd be lifted. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? What happens if he kills her, for fuck's sake?
How much stuff is swept under the carpet in the royal household?
There is a lot of stuff. I mean, like I said, I'm not a disloyal prick. You know, I've opened my gob, but there's certain things I won't talk about. Do you know what I mean? I'm not doing it for me. You know, I'm doing it because people should know what Prince Andrew's like. And I'll bare my soul, and there's more to come about what I've done. You know, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, tell you things to make myself look good. You know, people are going to look at me and think, he's a cunt, which is fair enough. But at the end of the day, I can't change what I've done. I'm talking about it because some people might sort of, some of the things I'll talk about might relate to that, and that somehow might help them. Do you know what I mean? But there's a lot of things that were swept under the carpet. I mean, another incident that I've spoken about but has never been aired was a senior member of the Queen's team. came up to us one night, was at the front of the palace, and he was pissed. And he said, because I need you to go and get my briefcase back. I've been assaulted. And I said, oh, calm down, what's going on? He goes, I was in a, it turns out he was in a topless bar, and he's groped one of the waitresses, and he's got a slap by the bouncers. And rightly fucking so. But they've chucked him out, and he's not got his briefcase back. So when we've heard the story, we said, listen, mate, just go home. I don't give a fuck who he is. You know, if that's what you've done, then sorry, what do you want me to do about it? And he's going, no, you will get my breast. I won't do anything. And he's talking to me like I'm a piece of shit. So I called the governor up, and he's gone, he's then said, I've got palace papers, like secret papers in this briefcase. Obviously, once he said that, we're fucked, haven't we? So we've had to go to the club and retrieve the briefcase. And the bouncer said, listen, he had his hands, it was sexual assault at the end of the day, you know? And I said to him, well, we didn't say to him, but we should have said to him, you know, just you want to make it. I mean, they probably get it all the time, it's not right. But back then, again, so he was a creepy little fucker. And he's one close age to the Queen.
What do you think of Prince Andrew? Especially all the stuff out about him now.
Yeah, look, did he sleep with Jouffre? I don't know. You know, assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups. We can assume things based on what's been said, but we don't know the full facts and the full evidence because it's never been aired. You know, I mean, Prince Andrew, from what my perception is, like I said, with the royal household, if you, like with Princess Diana, when I came up to royal protection, a lot of the officers had a massive dislike for Prince Charles because they blamed him for her death. Yeah. And the way she was treated by the royal household, because once you deviate from their script, the knives are out for you. Yeah. And so you've got she was brought in as breeding stock. That's how these upper class people look at it. She was just brought in purely to provide an heir to the throne. Prince Charles didn't have any sort of, you know, care for her because he was seeing Camilla. And you know, was she treated badly? I believe so. A lot of my colleagues believe she was. And so the household, they don't change. They're like that. I mean, the Meghan Markle situation, I'm not defending her. I'm not having a go at her, but she's probably come into that environment and they've said, they give you a list to say, right, you're not going down the shops anymore. You're not going, this is your list of engagements for the rest of your fucking life. Because that's what happened to the Queen. She knew what she was doing every fucking day because it was put in front of her first thing in the morning. You're going here, you're going there, you're doing this, you're meeting this person. I mean, it's for me, that's not a nice life. I mean, she's, you know, all my hat off to her, but would you want that kind of life where you're now being told exactly what you're going to do in each fucking day? And I think similar to that's what's happening. People say, oh, she was told before what was going to happen. Fine, that's fine, but people can change their mind, can't they?
Yeah.
It's a different thing knowing what you're going to do to when you're actually doing it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think, you know, the royal household turned against. And I did say that what happens is you get a lot of articles in the press. A source said, a spokesman said, a friend said. No, it's the royal household are putting these things out there. They're putting stories out there to try and coerce the public into believing in what they want you to believe. Do you know what I mean? The source said, or a friend of Prince Andrew said, well, why hasn't the friend got the balls to put his name on that fucking statement that he's just said? Stand up and tell us who you are.
Mm-hmm. So what I got for the Prince Andrew interview, he's just not the sharpest tool in the shed. Like, I think because he's always getting people saying yes to him, I think he thinks people are stupid. Like that interview with Jeffrey Epstein thing and breaking up, who was a convicted sex case. He's went and partied with him for 5 days because he didn't want to hurt his feelings and he thought it would be a chicken to go and speak to him. Like, did you see, was Prince Andrew just a party boy who just loved birds and partying? I mean, or is there question marks with younger kids?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I've been asked a lot. And all I can say is what I saw. And that is women in their 20s, early 20s to their late 20s probably, coming in and out frequently, different times of the day, usually after 5 o'clock when the palace is shut, these individuals turn up. We were not privy to their names, which is obviously a security issue. We should know who's coming to the palace, and I've said this before. You know, if someone turns up, we do get people that have got, sort of psychological issues, and say they're here to see the Queen when she was alive. Obviously, clearly they're not. You know, I'm here to see the Queen. I'm here to see Prince Philip. Well, this is what we were getting. Similar people come, I'm here to see Prince Andrew. And if people have heard it before, I'll tell the story again. So on one occasion, we couldn't get hold of his footman. So we're going to have to hold you for a minute until we can just confirm the appointment. She said, it's fine. I've got shall I ring Prince Andrew? So we said, yeah, okay. He'd just previously come in about half hour before. And so she rang him and we could hear him on the phone. And he said, put one of the officers on. So my colleague took the phone and he said, listen to me, you fat lardy ass cunt. Let my guest in now. I'm going to come down there. We all heard it and she went bright red and we just thought, in you go. So obviously after that, we just didn't want to be on the wrong side of him. So we were letting people in, coming up, I'm here to see Prince Andrew, I'm here to see Prince Andrew. So we just let him in. Now the problem with that is, and then turned out to be a problem, was someone did a similar thing at Windsor, his place in Windsor, turned up in a taxi and said, I'm here to see Prince Andrew. But she actually wasn't anything to do with him. I think she said she was his fiancée. Well, the Royal Protection Officers were obviously the same mindset as we were. Fucking just let her in or we're going to get grief. And she turned out to be obviously mentally challenged and was nothing to do with Prince Andrew. And she was left to wander around his private apartment, his private house, before she was found and restrained.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, to meet the royal family, you must be vetted. Like you must have.
Yeah, you go through counter-terrorism command. Yeah.
Was Jimmy Savile ever in the palace when you were there?
I see him come in once. He came in running gear. Just coming in running gear, like really small shorts on. He was actually a funny bloke, do you know what I mean? And we didn't think anything of it. So we grew up with this fella, but he did look a bit out of place. I mean, he was going in to see Prince Charles, I think. But yeah, he was a regular visitor. I've seen him a couple of times. Remember once, but yeah, he was a regular visitor.
So why do you think all these sex cases and people like Epstein and Jimmy Savile are allowed inside Buckingham Palace or allowed to be around?
Well, at the end of the day, they can have who they want. The bottom line is they can have who they want in. You know what I mean? We can't tell them not to have people. It's like Prince Andrew going to see Epstein. He was a convicted paedophile. Now, my issue with that is, and you'd say the same, if one of your friends, where he was abroad, you found out they'd done this and he just got out of jail for it, you'd ring him up and say, delete my number and fuck right off and put the phone down. You wouldn't travel 3,000 miles and then spend 3 days to say goodbye to him, would you? You know? And that was a big issue because he's a senior member of the royal family. Why the fuck was he allowed, or why did he make sure that he was able to go and visit this individual? Because there had been a lot of security checks in place for him. You know, you'd have... The travel, we've got like a section within Royal Protection that deals with all the travel for royals and all the rest of it. So they'll liaise with local police wherever they go and make sure they know where the local hospitals is, the local police stations, just if there was an emergency. Same if they go abroad. He's a senior member of the royal family. Therefore, wherever he goes needs to be vetted. They need to know where he's going, who he's going to visit, so they can contact the local police. They can do the checks on the premises to make sure it's not owned by the fucking mafia or Russian state or anything like that, where it could be bugged and cameras. And they'd obviously check out it was coming back to Epstein. And obviously they'd say that he's coming to visit Epstein. And it would flag up. It would say, but he's a convicted felon. You do know that. And they'd go back to Rolt and they'd say, sir, you do know. And he's obviously gone, I'm going. He's obviously gone against advice for whatever reason that is. There's obviously something there that he was frightened was going to come out or Epstein was going to say about him. And that's why he's gone. Otherwise, there's no good reason. The excuse he came up with was absolute tosh. You know, there's something. What it is, I don't know. But he's worried about Epstein had knowledge of something he'd done.
Because I've spoke to a few people who touch on the craze who listen with roughly fucking nonsense as well. But they had information on politicians. That's why they never get sent to prison until somebody burned the evidence and then they end up getting life sentence. As far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Do you think Epstein had something on Prince Andrew where
potentially
he tried to keep him sweet? Because Epstein would have been a mass manipulator.
Yeah.
Like I say, Andrew's not the smartest tool in the shed. Do you think Epstein's been feeding him women? Possibly, maybe not girls, maybe just women partying, and he's got video footage, or because if you're on that island with Clintons and Woody Allens and high up profile names, like listen, a lot of people might have just been thinking free holiday or whatever, but there was rumours that Epstein, way back in the 70s, I think he was a maths teacher and he was being inappropriate with young girls, so it was always there, same as Jimmy Savile, there was always rumours there. I think Johnny Rotten outed him way back in the 90s, I think they'd done an interview, but do you think Epstein had something over Prince Andrew?
Potentially. I mean, that's how it appears to be for the way Prince Andrew has acted by going to New York to visit him. You know what I mean? To do that, and obviously the shitstorm that was created out of that visit, to do that, there must have been something Prince Andrew was worried about. Any logical person, if you always say, would a reasonable person do this, that, and the others? Well, would a reasonable person go and visit a convicted sex offender? No, you wouldn't, especially in the position that this person was, a senior member of the royal family. You would not do it. You would be advised not to go, and yet he went. So, you know, there is definitely. I've always said he's got questions to answer, but he'll never have to answer them.
So did you ever see kids coming in to the palace? Because I had someone on, a police whistleblower. He spoke about Ted Heath, who was a prolific nonce. He was a prime minister. He says two of the coppers used to bring kids as young as 10 in to see Ted Heath.
Yeah.
One of the kids ended up snapping and sent them straight, but the two kids get sacked. They get sacked.
No kids. As I say, it was all women in their early to late 20s. You know, we never saw any females. We'd think, oh, does your mum know where you are? Do you know what I mean? It was just straight normal individuals.
What about Ghislaine Maxwell? Was she ever there?
All the time. She was, well, so all the time. I've already publicly said that she had the sort of the run of the palace. You know, she was in and out very frequently, and to the point where we actually thought they were in some form of relationship. You know, no one else had the sort of access to the palace as she did, and that's what gave us the impression that there was a relationship going on. We were just told to wave her through, and not sort of get involved when she was coming into the palace. So,
but it's strange though. Again, she's just been done for trafficking. Like, how these people are all connected with it. Like,
I just think the issue you've got with Prince Andrew, what he's got, is 6 or 7 of his closest friends are convicted sex offenders. You know, I mean, one individual that say you know and suddenly you'd found out was but half a dozen that's you know what I mean. What the fuck's going on? And that's the issue he faces. I mean, he's never going to come back into public life. And as I said, just because he's got a title, it doesn't mean that he's not. Let me start that again. Just because he's got a title after his name doesn't mean he's a good person. You know, he's proved himself to be less than honourable on so many levels. You know, why are we having to look after this idiot? He's damaged the royal family, you know, badly. I mean, the Harry and Meghan situation, that's none of my business, but, you know, that's another issue. But the royal family, as it stands now, the Queen's gone, it's starting to crumble. You know, it's starting to just deteriorate into something that's, I think people are going to be more supportive of the anti-monarchist sort of situation.
What did you think of the princess? What did you think of Prince Andrew's interview?
The interview with Prince Andrew, it was clear that he was lying on a number of levels. I mean, that was a mad thing to do. I actually think because he's been brought up in this bubble and he's never heard the word no, they actually believed he could pull it off, you know, and that we would believe everything he said. It was complete and utter nonsense, and that's what killed him. And that's probably the court case that would have been brought up in the court case had it gone to court. You know, the main person who would have been the sort of the one that's going to bring him down was himself, because of the things he said. You know, I don't sweat.
Yeah. Who would have green lighted that interview?
He did. That's what I'm saying. No one's going to say no to Prince Andrew. Yeah, he would have green lighted that himself. He would have thought it was the right thing to do. I mean, I've said it publicly as well. I mean, to publicly defend a relationship with a convicted paedophile, I mean, that's just disrespecting survivors of abuse all around the world. It just shows his mentality, you know, that he's not even thinking about what he's saying. You know what I mean? And the world's watching, and you're talking like that.
So he said he didn't swear. He went to see Epstein because he didn't want to be a chicken to break up with a convicted paedophile. Like, he says he went to a pizza shop with the night of, was it Roberts? What's her name?
Yeah, Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre.
Virginia Roberts. Like, so what age was this girl? 17?
17, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And she says she was trafficked. Went with Andrew 3 times. Like, what's your whole rundown on it all? What's your opinion on Prince Andrew, Epstein, Maxwell?
If we put it like this, if it was one of us, our feet wouldn't have touched the ground. We'd have been interviewed about what the allegations that were made by this individual. But it never happened. I think Prince Andrew's there's something that Prince Andrew has done that's clear that there is an issue. He's got an issue. And also, I look at the fact that if someone has made an allegation, which you're saying is a malicious allegation against the royal family, a member of the royal family surely would have pulled together and used every, legal framework that they had and power that they had to defend the individual against this allegation. But they never. They basically left him to it. And I'm pretty sure that the Queen and Prince Charles were the ones that told him to pay the money. Because if he'd have gone to court, he would have just talked himself into the electric chair. He would have just been ripped to pieces.
But I didn't think royal family could ever go to court. So why were they even answering questions? Because I know some countries you can't even speak out against the royalties. You go to prison.
I think it can be questioned. He could have been questioned about what had happened, about the allegations that were made against him, but it wasn't. If the Metropolitan Police deemed that legally that they didn't have the framework to interview him, even a voluntary interview. I mean, he did say that he took to the FBI, but then he never. If you're innocent, you're going to be fucking shouting it for the rooftops. You're going to be saying, "Listen, of course I'll support your investigation. Of course I'll come forward and talk to you because I've done fuck all wrong." Why are you hiding behind your legal team? If that's really what you're telling us, that this is the truth, then defend yourself. Don't hide behind a payment and then start gobbing off again. At the end of the day, he's gone too far. He's been connected with too many bad people, and he just needs to disappear and stay out the limelight.
So see, when he goes out of Buckingham Palace,
I think
how well
they've kicked him out.
Yeah, but how well were they protected when they go out, like security wise?
He would have had a couple of PPOs with him. Probably one. If it's an official engagement, he might have a PPO and a backup, a car with 4 backups in it. But if it's a private engagement, he'll just have one PPO with him, protection officer. But now I don't know whether I did say before the Queen had passed away that they'll slim the royal family down, and I think his security has been slimmed down. I don't know if he's got civilian security now. I don't even know if he's got armed protection anymore.
What's it like at a private event with the royal family?
You just get loads of heads. I've been there when President Bush came in on a Black Hawk helicopter. I've been there when Putin was there, and his security team. Chinese premier. There's a big security. You can imagine those kind of people come to the palace. There's massive security presence.
Who had the biggest security with them?
Oh, Bush. He had fucking loads. They had handheld Stinger missiles apparently in the back of the car. They had people on rooftops all in different buildings for fucking miles.
Have you got a license to kill?
Have I got a license to kill?
Yeah.
Not a license to kill. When you carry a firearm as an AFO, obviously you've got a certain list of rules. Most of them I've forgotten now, but obviously you're there to protect life and protect property. So if there's a situation where if you don't act, someone could get killed or you could get killed, then obviously you're duty bound to use your weapon. Mm-hmm. And if someone gets killed, then you're going to have to justify it.
Was Harry and William ever at the palace when you were there?
I'd seen them when they were kids. They were young. They were at St James's when I used to work at different palaces, and they were lovely kids. They'd always come and talk to the police and just wave, and they were more down to earth. Do you know what I mean? They didn't have that sense of entitlement that the senior royals did. And Prince Charles had a sense of entitlement. Then he's the future heir to the throne. Prince Anne was the same, but the kids were sort of different. They were a lot more friendly. Because
obviously you've got the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle thing now, and I thought it was quite noble at the start. I thought, because I like Princess Diana, I thought amazing woman, and I thought, you know what, he's trying to look after his wife and his kids. But then I seen them do interview after interview, Netflix, books, and podcasts, and I'm thinking, is he been manipulated? It looks, for my judging of appearance and way I see it, as I feel as if he's been manipulated by her, and both of them have just kind of forgot who they are. Well, not her specifically. I don't know if she's pulling the strings, but what do you think the whole Harry and Meghan thing?
I think he's come across as quite an angry bloke that's got a lot of issues, and he's gone and aired them in public. I mean, it's not for us to say whether that's right or wrong in terms of if that's his personal feelings and he wants to shout to the world what he's done. I think the issue with some people is the money that's being made out of that. Yeah. That's what I personally think. Obviously, they're making a lot of money. So is his grief being commercialised? You know, is he genuinely this upset? And he probably is, because he's been through a lot. But then obviously you've got the amount of money that's being made. So it's a fucking hard one to sort of work out what's right and what's wrong. For him, it's right, but maybe for the royal household, it's wrong.
Yeah.
The royal family, it's wrong. You know, he's gone down that path now. There's no turning back. So he's going to have to deal with the situation.
Yeah, I can't see why he left and tried to protect his wife. I get it if it's to do with his mum.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's maybe been manipulated to then.
Yeah.
They're saying they want a peaceful life, but then they're doing books and they're speaking out against. Like, they're speaking out against his brother. Like, that's no matter what's happened. Like, you don't speak out against your brother. Like, that's a sin in its own. Like, what was the Queen like?
She was a really nice lady. She was, I'd spoken to a number of. Well, you don't speak to the Queen; she speaks to you. I mean, some people get young with that. So, but that's how it was. You know, she's served the country for a long period of time, but she treated her staff with respect. Yeah, one of her footmen was a raving alcoholic, and he would sometimes turn up to open the doors for her when she came back from doing visits, and he'd be drunk, but she'd ignore that. She'd ignore that fact, and she knew what he was like. One time he came in, and the Queen was 5 minutes away, and he came staggering towards us in his penguin outfit. He'd had too much. He goes, "I need to go through the garden gate to wait for the Queen." I said, "Hold up, you're off your face. We can't let you go in like that." I called up the inspector, come down, she knows what he's like, let him in. So he staggered across the fucking gravel forecourt at the palace, let him in the garden gate, and he was there waiting for the Queen when she come out and opened the door for her. Yeah. You know, if that was somewhere else, he'd get the sack, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But because she's loyal to her staff, she just ignored it. Do you know what I mean?
Does the staff, as they see when people make the food and stuff in the Buckingham Palace, like, do people have to test it or eat it first, or is it just
No, I don't believe. I've never seen that anyway. I've never seen that. She's got her own private chefs, and I think there's three different sort of for the staff. There's 3 different restaurants. You've got the upper class, which is all the senior members of the royal household have got their own restaurant. Then you've got the middle tier. Then you've got obviously the waitresses and the footmen and all that. At the lower level, they've probably just got a fridge and a fucking microwave.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. The food side of things, it's obviously one of the best chefs she's got there, isn't she? Do you know what I mean?
What was Charles like?
I didn't really see him that much. He's a bit aloof. He wasn't really. I'd never seen him like on the grounds as such. He did acknowledge just every now and again. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't horrible to me or anything like that. You know, I'm not going to disrespect people that haven't done anything to me, or I've not sort of got the vibe. Do you know what I mean? But he seemed all right. I think he's the heir to the throne. He was brought up in a certain way. They're old fashioned. They expect to be looked after, be served. That's how they were.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of negatives with that job as well, but there must have been positive. Like, what was the perks of working in Buckingham Palace?
Obviously, you get well paid. You get well paid for it. There's no stress. You know, you're not dealing with the stuff that I've mentioned before when I joined the police. You're dealing with just protection. And you get to meet all kinds of people and celebrities and stuff like that, and it's just standard, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You can put your head on your pillow at night and not have to worry about paperwork, court, or whatever else.
What sort of celebrities did you come across?
Oh, flipping hell! One who was a bit of a tool was Elton John. He turned up one day because I was doing the party in the palace. You know, it was the Jubilee in 2002, and he was coming in to look at something on the grounds or something. And a Bentley turned up, and the driver was there, and he said, "Yeah, Mr. Elton John." I went, "Right, I obviously need to see him because I don't know who the fuck you are, but I know you're not Elton John." So I opened the window and I said, "Afternoon, sir." And he just looks at me and looks away. I thought, "You wanker." Not even a hello. I thought, "Oh, do you know what?" And yeah, so he wasn't all that, but Brian May was in there because he stood on the roof. Do you know what? There was loads of people off me. I just can't reel them off my head now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, most of them were pleasant by and large.
What's the worst thing you've seen in Buckingham Palace?
The worst thing I've seen? Well, apart from that domestic incident, I haven't really seen any. When you say worst thing, no, There's nothing. Well, give me an example.
Just like, did you see any bad stuff? Like, or was it just all kind of normal? Just
Yeah, no,
day-to-day
yeah,
kind
no,
of jobs?
it was just normal stuff, doing their jobs. There wasn't really any bad stuff per se that went on in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was pretty standard.
So what's your whole rundown on the Prince Andrew thing? Like, what's your whole opinion of him?
Right. Basically, that he just needs to stay out of the public life now. He's done. He's done. Stick a fork in you, you're done. Do you know what I mean? He's got no place in public life. He's said too much and he's done too much. You know, the Epstein visit was one of the nails in the coffin. The interview was the other nail in the coffin. The association with over 6 or more convicted sex offenders. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we could go on and on and on. He's had 30 years of living a hedonistic lifestyle and it's come on top for him. Why? Because he's never listened to any advice. And he's not, I don't think he's ever going to change. And no one really wants to see him back in any sort of position within the royal family. Who's going to want him to come and cut a ribbon on their business? You know, no one. So I don't see there's any way back for him. I mean, he's probably going to try and fight tooth and nail to claw something back, but I don't think it's going to work. Public opinion is so far against him. I can't see him getting anywhere.
What's your opinion on the Epstein death?
Again, you know, a lot of people. I'm sort of one of these people. You look at the facts. You know, we assume this and we assume that, and people say this, people say that. But what are the actual facts? The trouble you have is when you're dealing with powerful people in that sort of environment, that the facts sort of seem to get lost. Do you know what I mean? They sort of get lost, and you get a lot of fucking supposition, as it were. So, did he commit suicide? I think probably. Do you
think so? What about the stuff that you're doing now, Paul? Like, I know you're doing a lot of charity work. Let's touch on that.
Yeah. As I said to you, I'm doing this interview to try and highlight a charity called Embrace CVOC, which is Child Victims of Crime. And it's a small charity. And it basically helps children that have been directly or indirectly affected by crime and their families. Includes counselling and stuff like that. So if people could Google it, CVOC, and maybe donate something for these people, it'll make a difference to kids that need help. It really would.
And how can people get involved?
If you go onto their website, CVOC, Embrace CVOC, and there's lots of ways you can get involved. You can do charity events if you want, or you can donate. So it's you can get involved. Just go on the site, and there's all the connections you need to go and move forward.
What about plans for the future, brother? What you got planned?
I've got a TV work coming up. Whether I decide to do it or not, I haven't chosen that. I think I'm pretty much done now. I've said what I wanted to say about Prince Andrew. It's the truth, and there's nothing else I can say about that. You know, I can't add to it. I can't take away because it's out there now. But I just think people. My issue was I just think people should look at the facts of what I've said about this individual in all kinds of media, that work, the TV stuff that I've done, and form their own opinion. Yeah, of look at the situation, what he's got himself involved in. Look at the man himself. Look at the people that have come forward to talk about what kind of individual he is, and then make up your own mind.
Do you have a worry for your life?
No.
How so?
I just think it's one of them things, isn't it? You know,
because speaking out against such a powerful family.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've got a lot of support from other police officers and former Royal Protection officers, but they are in fear of coming forward and giving information out what they've got. And so, you know, I've put some of the stuff out there. I've been used as a pipeline to sort of get it out there because they're too frightened, because the Masonic influence within the police was big. And obviously, if a Royal Protection officer speaks out, if they've got a business or say, it could be damaged, you know, because people might say, oh, he's gobbing off about the royal family. And that's what happened. A lot of people are frightened because they don't want to get, the attention drawn onto them, and negative attention.
Have you ever been discredited yet? Like
No.
writing negative posts up in the papers? Or...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get. No, what happens is, obviously, I went to prison for fraud. And obviously, it's saying I deserve to get my sentence. Probably should have got a longer sentence, if I'm going to be honest with you. I made a lot of bad decisions. They weren't mistakes. They were decisions that I made, conscious decisions, which were completely and utterly wrong, and it affected a lot of people. But at the time, I got myself in so much financial sort of debt, millions, that I tried to trade my way out of it on the stock market, and I lied to people and I took people's money and told them it was all good when it wasn't. I just didn't have the courage, I didn't have the backbone to stand up and say, look, it's all gone fucking wrong. I had a reputation. I'd become a millionaire while I was in Royal Protection. So, you know, I had a lot of money and people trusted me because I was driving around in £80,000 cars, you know, and I had a luxurious lifestyle. And basically what happened was I took a hit in the markets, decided to create a currency club, put a lot of police officers' money in. We were dealing with millions. And I went from buying shares to trading spread betting. And spread betting is basically gambling. Well, we started the stock market, but the difference is when you buy a share, it's got to go up to make money. Spread betting is you can bet on markets to go up or down, so you can make money on the markets going down as well as up. And so I was trading, when I was doing my own thing, I was doing £1 million a month from Buckingham Palace, trading on my fucking phone on the teletext. Yeah. And I had my own dealer with Halifax. You know, I had a £500,000 credit limit with them. And so I could buy shares on credit and not have to pay for them from 28 days. I was making 20 grand a week, sometimes 30 grand a week. So the money sort of, it dehumanises you because you're dealing with so much money. And then all of a sudden I got a bad kick. I managed to get out with about 80 or 90 grand, so I lost a lot of money. And then I went into this, I thought I could do it in the spread betting. But if you put £10,000 in, and this is important for people who are doing this, you put £10,000 in an account, you can trade up to £100,000 because you get leverage 10 times the amount you put in. What that means is that you can trade £100,000, but if the markets go against you, you're going to lose a lot of fucking money. And I started off all right. We started making money, and then it went fucking tits up. I just, like I said, instead of having the guts to say to people, look, it's all gone wrong, I continued in a corrupt way, and it just come on top. I ended up having a contract put out on me. You know, I got locked up in Pentonville for fucking 6 weeks for witness intimidation on police. I mean, that was an eye opener. Obviously, getting locked up, I was a serving police officer, and I'm put in Pentonville prison. And I was there for the first day, and I got in with a fellow who was from a gang in South London, and we got on like a house on fire. And I was in the canteen queuing up for my food, and they took your name off on this list. And this geezer looks, he goes, Paul Page. He goes, you're fucking old Bill, you, aren't you? I was like, fuck. All right. So you could hear a pin drop. There's like about 10 geezers behind me. I'm in there thinking, what the fuck am I going to... I haven't got a radio now to go urgent assistance. I'm on my own. So I thought, right, I've got to think quick. So I went, who the fuck are you talking to? I'm in here for witness intimidation, which I was. He goes, oh, and he started, and I said, what do you want to do about it then, mate? Yeah, I said, I'm not old fucking Bill, you silly cunt. So, because he wasn't too sure, he's like, he went, all right, brother, all right, I made a mistake. All right, calm down. So, all right, you fucking calm down. So I went back to my cell, and I said to Joel, the fellow I was there, I was like, fuck. And then, so I was eating dinner. He goes, what's that about? Fuck it. Well, fuck all, mate. Don't worry about it. So anyway, we all get locked up, and all the canteen boys are still out cleaning up. Anyway, he's gone back to his cell, got a fucking newspaper, my picture's in it, innit? So half a dozen of them have come up, they banged on the cell, died on the flat. I'm going, oh, you cunt. Put it. See, that's you, innit? I was like, fuck. So Joel was like, oh, mate, what are we going to do? They're going to think I'm a grass. So sitting there, but because we got on, I said, listen. He goes, I've got people upstairs. My cousin runs shit in here. He goes, I said, right, I'll sort out some money for him. I'll put a few quid in his account, get him to look after me. He said, yeah, we'll do that. Anyway, 6 o'clock in the morning, about 4 or 6 girls, I can't remember, big fuckers, they were a couple of cell. Don Page, get your stuff. You're going on you're going on the fucking raw.
Protection?
Yeah, you're going on the VP wing. I went, no, I'm fucking not. I went, yes, you fucking are. I said, no, I'm not. I said, he's my witness. I said, you put me on that wing, yeah, I'm going to stab the first person I come across in both eyes. I said, so there's a witness there now. So if I go on that wing, I'm putting you in the frame for that. He goes, are you telling us you're a danger to other prisoners? I went, yeah, I fucking am. Sex cases and nonsense. I said, I'm not living with them. So they said, all right, you'll have to go on the block. If you're a danger to other prisoners, we'll put you on the punishment block. And I said, yeah, and if anyone's ever been to Pentonville, you know that's the worst place to fucking be. It's a shithole. The prison's a shithole anyway. But the punishment block's in the fucking basement. And so I got marched down there. And they stuck me in it, and it was fucking horrible. And there was all bog rolling in the fucking walls down the sink. And I was like, what's this nutter done? Who's been in this cell? So what you do is when you get a sewer, you clean it. You've got to clean it because there's all kinds of piss and all kinds of bodily fluids that are You know what I mean? You just clean your cell. No telly or nothing like that. You're in a punishment lot. You got fuck all. So I cleaned this cell up, took all the paper out the fucking walls and all. It took me ages, right? And I was asleep at about 2 a.m. I was like, I could hear something rattling in my fucking. I think someone was on my noodles, yeah. So what the fuck's that? And then something ran across my face. I put the lights on. I got fucking cockroaches everywhere, all over me, in my fucking food. I was like, fuck's sake. Now I realise where all the fucking bog roll was in the. So I had to spend the next hour and I was putting all the fucking bog roll back in the gaps in the wall, stop them from coming through. But yeah, it was horrible. It was like fucking. And they kept coming to me every couple of weeks. I was in there for 6 weeks on the block. But every week the governor would come and say, oh, you shouldn't be down here. Because I was a serving police officer still. And I think they were worried. They said, look, why don't you go in the VP wing? We'll keep. I said, I'm not going on. So I collected a load of cockroaches. And you know, you have the IAGs, the independent advisory. We've got these people that come around like, going, oh, you're all right. How's prison? How's this? You know, like from outside the community and all the rest of it. So I kept saying to this governor, if you don't leave me alone, keep asking me to go on a nonsense with, I'm going to want to see these people and show them all the fucking cockroaches that you've got running around in here and the rats that are running past my window. She said, all right, no problem. Stay there. So I rode it out for fucking 6 weeks in the block. And then I managed to get bail.
So would you have a gambling addiction?
Well, they said I had a gambling addiction. I'm not going to use that as a fucking excuse. Do you know what I mean? It was a factor, contributing factor as I see it in my downfall. Yeah. But unfortunately what happened was because I was dealing with so much money, I lost the value of money. And so if you had £100,000 on this table now and I took half of it away, you'd think, fuck me, I've lost half the money. But if it's on a screen, it doesn't register that you're losing that kind of money. And I just went into this mode and the amount of money, because what I looked at, when it went wrong, I thought, fuck, I've had this nice life, and I'm going to let my family down. I'm going to lose everything. What am I going to do? I instead of just dealing with that situation head on, I went the wrong way, and I tried to gamble my way out of that situation with other people's money.
How much did you lose?
£3 million of other people's money and £2 million a month, so about £5 million. And it's something that it's a bitter pill I have to swallow every fucking day when I wake up and realise. So I used to be well respected. I was, people say, oh, he's probably a wanker for what he's done in his job. But I was, I did a lot of good things in the police, and I've done, bad things, as I've said. But I turned into this. Now I said you're bent for the job, and then bent for yourself. And then I turned bent for myself, and I corrupted other police officers. I mean, I had fucking when we had the syndicate, I was sending hundreds of thousands of pounds in police cars to different police stations to pay out police officers. In fact, it went up and down the country. Up in Scotland at the time, it was Police Scotland, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. That was the force. People up there all the way down Greater Manchester. So I was sending people that were going up to Barrymore with loads of money on them to buy them off for their monthly, quarterly earnings they were getting off me. It was like, it turned into a big fucking pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme. Not intentionally. I never knew what that was.
Like a Manoj kind of thing, people putting money in and getting it out at the end every couple of months.
I was sending money, hundreds of thousands of pounds in police officers' accounts. They were drawing it out and I was throwing it across in armed police cars with the blue lights flashing to get across town to get to the fucking other neck.
Do you ever remember the Heart scheme?
Yeah.
People used to put £1,000 in and then once you move down you get £8,000 at the end.
That came into Royal Protection at the time, and the individuals that run that, the police officers, asked me, because at the time I was the money god. I was driving, like I said, in fucking seriously expensive cars and going on nice holidays. It was all my money at the time, do you know what I mean? And then obviously they come up to me, oh, do you want to pump this? Tell the boys, because they'll listen to you. And I looked at it and I thought, it's a bit pants. So I put a few quid in myself and said, well, it's ain't no went tits up. And the individuals, the officers that were involved in that, we basically one of them got taken off the unit, moved to Windsor overnight because they found out there was a plot to smash the fuck out of him, which there was. But other old Bill were going to beat the shit out of him because they'd lost about 80 or 90 grand in total. But
so what was the coppers doing? Just putting money into what?
They were putting this in the hearts.
And
it just all went bandy. Mm-hmm. And so they made money. The two Royal Cops who...
The ones at the start would have made the dough.
Yeah, they made the dough.
We done it in Glasgow.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. But you know what? At the end of the day, they didn't fuck up as bad as I did. And... but I always one of these people that I say, if you dish it out, you better be prepared to take it. So, I've said what I've done in the job, and then it's come back full circle and bit me in the fucking arse.
When was this?
That happened in 2003. It started going pear-shaped. And then I got convicted in 2009. And I had a contract put out on me because I took some money. I didn't realise it was from serious criminals. Took some money and fucking it all went wrong. So they put a contract out on me. And I ended up nearly killing a Sun photographer because I thought he was a fucking hitman. And I had to go to court for that. And I put a gun in his head and, mate, it was just all wrong. I was just going downhill, my mental state. I wasn't off my head, but my capacity to think straight had gone by this time. Do you know what I mean?
Were you taking gear, booze?
No, a drink, yeah. Never took gear, only steroids when I was in prison. But, yeah, drinking a lot. You know, my capacity to think straight was gone.
What did you leave the royal family for?
Basically, because I was doing all this the currency club, it was called, you know, or it was cash. It was naughty. We shouldn't have been doing it at Royal Protection, you know. I was turning up in my Range Rover, and I've got a black Range Rover, the 2 Range Rovers and a Porsche. And I took leave from the job. But what happened was they put my file down the back of the fucking cupboard, so no one knew where I was or what the fuck I was doing. Everyone knew what I was doing, but if management turned up, they didn't know what was going on. So, because it got to the stage where I was paying people to work for my shift. I was paying people £300 a day, coppers to come, instead of being off, come and work my shift so I can fuck off onto the markets. You know, and it was using police resources. As I said, one time I had to take some money. There was some fellow who was worth 100 million was involved with me, and he put money in, and his contact, who I knew, I had to give him 50 grand, and he was late, so I needed to get this money up to him. So I met him in a shopping centre in Beckton car park, and I brought a police area car with me, BMW with 2 officers in it, and I gave this fella the 50 grand, and I said, just in case you get mugged on the way to London, they're going to follow you. So I used got that car to follow him to Limehouse Link. They've got another police car on the other side to escort him the rest of the way into where he needed to go. You know, I mean, it was fucking mental what we were doing. Fucking mental, do you know what I mean? Just to make sure that money weren't going anywhere but where it needed to go.
What was the most that went through?
I used to have about 150, 200 grand on my floor, putting in envelopes. I mean, the neighbours used to joke, say he's got more police cars on his driveway than the local Nick, because it'd become people coming, taking envelopes for their money and all the rest of it. And it just got fucking out of hand. Do you know what I mean? And we just lost. That's the trouble. Money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the stock market's the devil's casino. It turned you in for a half-decent individual, like I thought I was, half-decent, into a complete fucking slimeball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Listen, I've been a gambler. Like, I've done it for over 20 years.
I once lost £80,000 on online fucking roulette.
Easy done.
In one night. I was pissed. You know, I think I was doing property. If I'd have just stuck to property, I would have been all right.
It's greed though, isn't it? It's something, I wouldn't even say greed, because no matter how much you want, it goes straight back.
It starts off as ambition, right? Then it turns to obsession, then it turns to greed, and then ultimately addiction. That's the way I sort of processed what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I still, as I say, I've got no one else to blame but my fucking self. You know, prison probably saved my life, because going to prison as a police officer, that was the first occasion when I went to prison, Pentonville. So I learnt a lot, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How to survive. There was no way I was ever going on a fucking nonsense wing. No fucking way. If I'm going to get levelled out, so be it. How can I look at my children in the eye when I've had to mix with them fucking scumbags? And as I've already described what I did in my time as a police officer to some of these individuals when I had the opportunity. So how am I then going to fucking go from that to living with these people just to protect myself? So when I got convicted at court, and they sent me down, I got put down in the cells. I was like, fuck's sake. And because what I did to get through the court case, I had a bottle of Sprite, but I was filling it up with fucking white wine every day. So I was sitting there listening to, because it was tough, listening to people, how you've let them down and what you've done, and it was killing me inside. But I was in denial. I was going, fuck off, I didn't do all that. I was in denial. Yes, I did everything. I did it. You know, I turned into a monster. I look back now and I think, fucking hell, who the fuck was that? But I was in court when it was in the papers every day. You know, my wife was in the dock with me for money laundering, and she had fuck all to do with it. She had nothing to do with it whatsoever. I had more people, police officers and civilians, running, like, laundering money. My wife didn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? They bust my balls and said, listen, go quietly and we'll let your wife go. That's what they said to me. They was fucking trying to blackmail me. That's why the Prince Andrew stuff come out, because I was so angry. that I thought, you know what, fucking have some of that. You want to fight dirty, take the gloves off, let's go. You know, I've got plenty of information. You know, and they said to me, oh, he's fucking trying to get his colleagues in. I'm not a snitch, I'm not a grass. Do you know what I mean? There's colleagues that are still in the police now, that are senior officers that that are there because I've kept my gob shut. At the end of the day, the officers that gave evidence against me were wounded. But I turned on them and I started saying things back, and I shouldn't, you know what I mean? Because I was in denial. Because if you believe something long enough, you know, a lie long enough, it's true all of a sudden, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I'm lying about, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do it, fuck them. What about you did this, that and the others? I should have just gone, you know what? And anyway, so I got guilty. My wife got off halfway through because I realised there was nothing. Well, why is my wife here? Why? Got sent down, and I was in a cell with a fella, John, who's just got done for £10 million VAT fraud. And if anyone knows, when you get done for VAT, you're going to get a shafting. You know what I mean? And he got a 6. And he was such a nice bloke, but unfortunately, he's crossed the VAT man, hasn't he? And anyway, and there was another fella, that big bloke, he was a PC from Hertfordshire. And he was a lump, right? It was like, oh, what are you for? He goes, oh, I'm fucked. He's corruption. He goes, but then I joined the job to be corrupt. I was like, you wanker. I thought, oh. So anyway, I'm thinking, right, you're my wingman now, aren't you? We've got to work together. I said, listen, when we go to the big house, you need to switch on, mate, because it's going to come thick and fast, right? So he's going, what do you mean? Is this, you know, what he did was, he was that archetypical bent copper I told you about, bent for self from the off. And he was going around nicking money when he was doing drugs raising. He was putting £4,000 in his pocket, right? And he goes to me, I said, how'd you get fucking lifted then? He goes, oh, them wankers, anti-corruption. He said, they were on me. I knew they were on me. And I did this raid. And he goes, there was money. And I said, I knew they were on me, but I still took some money anyway. I thought, fuck it. I was like, you're off key, ain't you? I was, you're fucking mad. He goes, yeah. And I was giving information to this drug dealer. And he was going robbing these people and we was divvying up the fucking gear and the money. He goes, I knew they were following me. He said, I had his number on a cigarette box. He goes, and I thought, shit. So he's pulled over. He said, I'm going to go. I said, I went to go on this off license, but I quickly threw the cigarette box in the fucking bin, yeah? Because that was the connection. He goes, when I've come out, got in my car, I went home. I was looking, nothing. 6 o'clock in the morning, I've gone straight through his door, boof, with a big red key. And I nicked him, took him back to the police station. He said, interviewed him. And then I've got the cigarette box out. He goes, we found that in the fucking, your glove box of your car, mate. What you got to say about that? He went, you fucking never found that in the glove box. It was in the bin. No, it was in your glove box, mate. Fucking fitted him right up. But like I said to you, 5 and 5,
He was
innit?
guilty anyway.
It was guilty as fuck. So they've fitted him up. He was like, them dirty bastards. I said, what do you want about dirty bastards? What we've done? Yeah. I said, so anyway, we get put on the bus to Wandsworth. And bearing in mind, I've been like guilty verdicts. Now I'm fucking. I swifted me straight off. I didn't get bail for reports or anything like that. No, because I fucked the judge right off. You know, I terrorised him. I'll be honest with you, because I've been drinking this wine every day and just fucking gobbing off to the CPS and the anti-corruption muppets who was sat next to me. I kept leaning over, going, "Oh, wanker!" Like I was abusing them, so wrong. And I mean, to be fair, they were doing their job. I understand it. Do you know what I mean? But I was in that. You know, I was off key.
Lost.
I was lost. Yeah, I was gone. And so we get put on the bus to Wandsworth. It's all in the papers. It's on the news. Roll cops fucking been, you know, nutted off with a 6. Whatever. In fact, I didn't get the fucking 6 then. I got remanded straight away. So anyway, me and Laughing Boy, this corrupt fuckwit from Hertfordshire, and this John were on the bus, and we go to Wandsworth. They debus everyone else off except for me and Matey Boy, because we're the 2 old bill, weren't we? So they get us out. They goes, come on, use tapes. They've cleared everyone else out. Now it's our turn. Fuck me. It was like a busman's convention. There was about 20 screws in. They all come to see the bad cops. And we've walked in. One of them's gone behind the counter. Which one of you is Page? I went, I am. He goes, I said, take you're going on the road then, are you, mate? I went, fuck off. I said, I was pissed. I've been drinking, right? I said, you can fuck right off. He goes, oh, you're a cocky one, aren't you? I went, yeah, I fucking am. And they were laughing at me. They thought, wanker. And I probably was. So I said, no, I'm not going on the Raw, neither is he. And I looked around him and I said, just fucking stay with me. And then we got put on a reception wing, and as I walked through, fucking hell, they were going, you pig cunt, you fucking wanker, you're dead. And all this fucking... And or was that when actually, I don't know if that was not reception, that was when we went to the thing. But anyway, in reception, we've gone in our cells, right? And now he's starting to get shook, this big fella. He's thinking, fucking hell, because now he's in jail. Luckily for me, I'd already had a bit of a turn at him, so I knew what the coup was. And he's going, fucking hell. He goes, what are we going to do? I said, right, break your fucking razor right now. He goes, what? I said, break your fucking razor up, get that blade and start carving the bottom of your fucking toothbrush ASAP. He goes, what for? I said, you're going to need something. Because if it goes off in here, mate, we're dead. So I just fucking started sharpening up my fucking bottom of my toothbrush, big time. I said, get that fucking kettle on, get that sugar, leave it next to the fucking kettle. He's going, what are you on about? I said, mate, at the time I was doing that, then I was making a wedge for the door out of newspaper, soaking it up and making like a V-shape to put it under the fucking door, right? Because what you want to do is, if someone's going to come through your door, you want something there, because you're not allowed to have wedges and all that, the screws tight, but you make it out of paper, and I put it under the door just so enough so you could, it'd be like that, yeah? So I'm thinking, if some fucker's coming through that door, they're only going to be able to do that. By that time, sugar in the kettle, bosh, have that. Because I'm in survival mode now. I'm fucking, whatever streetwise situation I've got, it's in here now. I'm fucked. And he's starting to realise the gravity of the fucking situation. Do you know what I mean? You know, it was all big on the streets, lifting drug dealers' money. It was a big lump, and he thought it was a geezer, and I'm in the old bill and all this fucking bollocks, yeah? Now he's realising you're not in the old bill anymore. You're in jail. And the most hated people in jail are paedophiles, grasses, and old bill. And he's like, fuck me. He was starting to wither. Do you know what I mean? But I think, listen, I need this cunt to watch my back. So I can't have him going pear-shaped on me. So anyway, as we're sitting there, the telly comes on. Who's on the BBC News? Fucking me. Oh, roll call. I'm thinking, fuck's sake, could it get any worse? Right? And so the next day we get put, or was it a week? I can't remember, a few days anyway. We get put on the wing we're going to, A wing, B wing, whatever it was. But as I've walked through, they're on me, aren't they? They were going, you fucking cunt, you're dead, you fucking slag cunt. Right? Fucking pig cunt, and all that. I was like, just walking through, thinking, fuck's sake, I've really done it this time. He's behind me, but they don't say anything to him because they didn't know he was old Bill. They only knew I was old Bill because I'm on the fucking tell, I'm in the papers. Do you know what I mean? And so that was his sort of safe thing, right? So he goes in the fucking through into the wing, mate. Everyone's looking. It's like shit. It's gonna come at any, you know what I mean? At any angle. I've got my fucking thing ready to go. Or did I make another one? I can't remember. But anyway, I had it. I had one, and so we got put in a cell and got the kettle ready. So get that fucking kettle ready. Go and make the fucking wedge. Blah blah blah. I was put it under the door, and then the screw company goes, "Oh, Page, come here." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, all good." It was a fucking bench screw, wasn't it? Straight over to me like that. Because anything you need, come and see me. Yeah, I said, listen, I need to get a blow. I need to speak to my missus. They said, he said, come out, I'll take you upstairs and use my phone. Because I didn't have any PIN credit. I said, anything you need, just to get me food and stuff like that. And so he looks after me, but he's going like, you watch your back, man, because they're all talking in here. So like, yeah, sweet. And so we again, the canteen situation, fuck's sake. So I've said to him, right, listen, can't hide in the cell. You've got to get out there about, because if you're hiding in your cell, this weakness, mate, you're going to get fucked. They don't know you, right? They don't know me. So he's like, oh, mate. He's starting to shake. And I said, right, we come back, we'll do a load of push-ups, get the adrenaline out of your system, we smash the push-ups out, right? And he's going, oh, mate. So we've gone to the canteen to get our food. Everyone's looking, everyone's fucking on it. There's the cunt there. So I'm getting the food, and then one of these geezers goes to me, ain't like that in the fucking police canteen, is it, mate? He slops my fucking food. I'm like, listen, you cunt. I've had to do it. What am I going to do? I'm either going to wither and die, or I'm going to front it out and get a kick in. You know what I mean? Or worse. So I said to him, who are you fucking talking to, you cunt? I said, come round here and say that to me, you fucking prick. I've had to. I mean, I wasn't in the, you know, I wasn't being an hard man. I wasn't even frightened because I was so fucked off my head, I didn't know where was my emotions. And the screws just looked the other way and fucking walked away. I thought, you wankers. Because obviously I've been a cocky cunt downstairs and when I got booked in. So they thought, go on, cunt, have that. So anyway, it all went quiet. It all just went fucking quiet. And I looked around and there's like 20 people looking at me. So, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Anyway, the geezer said to me, he goes, all right, calm down. Calm fucking down. I went, no, you fucking calm down. Anyway, I walked back to my cell. By this time, matey boy's having a heart attack. He's going, fucking hell, so get the wedge, mate. They're coming. All right, and he's shaking. He's fucking, I'm thinking, he's a big cunt. He's like 16 stone. He's like that. And he's just turned into a complete fucking jelly. All right, so we're ready now. Anyway, this fella I had a row with has come to the door. He goes, hey, bruv. I said, yeah, what's up? He goes, listen, apologies for that. You know, fair play to you. You know, you got, you know, fair play. So he put his hand through the gap, innit? I'm thinking, I've got my shiv, like, ready to go. And I'm thinking, but he wasn't in a position, he wasn't going to do it. He was a melt, do you know what I mean? He wasn't going to get the water ready. And I'm thinking, do I shake the geezer's hand or do I upset him or what do I do? Innit? Typical fucking gambler. I've gone, no, fuck it. Get in for a penny, in for a pound. So I've shook his hand and it was all good because I'm ready. I was thinking, and it was all good. So I think, right, okay, I fucking survived that little situation. What I didn't realise is this fella is about 6 of them. They were in for serious armed robberies. Fucking, they were seriously naughty people. And they could have killed me, right? Because I wasn't mentally, I was in survival mode. And like I said, they're probably a bit off key as well. And then we went out into the yard. And I said, mate, he goes, mate, you can't go out there, they're on you. I said, listen, if we don't fucking go out there, it's going to be 10 times worse. I said, like I said, they don't know who the fuck you are, it's all on me. So he's going, oh, are you sure? We've got no choice. So we've gone out into the yard. John knew that for, like I said, with the tax thing, he come with us. And we're walking around, because you walk around in a circle, didn't you? The only time anyone crosses the yard is if someone's getting to get a clump. And these 4 big black fellas comes marching across towards me. I was like, oh, fuck, here it is. This is where it's going to go off. I went to say to this fucking idiot, go on, you walk ahead of me. He'd already walked off. He'd fucked off and left me.
Shake bag.
Right? Whereas John, who, bless him, he couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag, said, no, I'll stay with you, Paul, I'll stay with you. I'm like, I'm shaking now. I know it's coming. So I'm there ready to go, bang. I go, yo, you're that copper off the telly, ain't you? I went, yeah. Because did you know the Queen? I went, yeah. He went, fucking hell. And I started shaking my hand, right? I was like, really? I couldn't believe it. Like, they were like, oh, you know the Queen? And I was like, yeah. So I started chatting shit about the Queen, mate, for like fucking like rapid. Because what it was, they'd seen the mansion and cars that the BBC had built me up millions of pounds on this. So I wasn't a sort of like, no disrespect, but I wasn't a numpsy beat copper, do you know what I mean? I come across as a big fish on the news and all the rest of it. And obviously they're called a celebrity, you know what it's like when people in jail. And so I was like, oh, they didn't really register like I'm a dirty pig in other right people's eyes. So I started chatting about the Queen. And that was good as gold, right? So I got a link there. And then anyway, Silly Bollocks comes back round and go back to the cell. And I said to him, do you know what, mate? I think the best thing for me to do for your safety is I'm going to fucking move cells. I said, because you could get weighed in. He goes, oh, would you? I thought, you can't. Do you know what I mean? He goes, oh, would you move? Like, oh, thanks, mate. It's like, really? No loyalty whatsoever. And I thought, oh, you wanker. So I fucked off outright. And I went in with John, bunked in with John. And I was chatting to these armed robbers and all the rest of it. And I was starting to move around, but be seen but not heard, you know what I mean? Just you can't hide in yourself, especially like me. You're going to be a fucking target, mate. You've got to come out and at least show that you've got something about you. I could have got weighed in at any time. I'm not saying I marched around the prison going, look at me. I'm saying that's what you got to do, fucking standard in my position. And he lasted a fucking day, this wanker, and went on the roll. They moved the nutcase in his cell with him. He was there for GBH ×2 or whatever the fuck it was. And he withered and died and fucked off on the roll, this cunt. And all that did was give me more kudos. Because people were coming up to me saying, do you know what, mate? Shake me hand, you got some balls on you. But before that happened, the reason he went, we got the screw come up to us, yeah, you got a solicitor's come to see you and him. I said, fucking solicitor, what are you on about? Oh, no good to me now, I'm gone. He said, no, yeah, they're up there. So I went up there, and this guy's opened the door, he said, come in, mate. There's 2 of them in there. And they were Met Police Prison Intelligence. And he said to me, right, mate, I had all paperwork with him. He goes, listen, we've received credible intelligence that your life is in serious danger and we need to move you on the roll. I said, fucking hell, I've got to go through this again. I said, listen, it is what it is. I said, you two, the pair of you put together have probably not even got as much service as I had. I said, and you're standing there telling me I'm old school. I said, listen, I've done what I've done. I'm not going on the roll with sex cases. I'm going to take my chances. And they said, what? I'd be like, I was fucking mad. And I said, by the way, him out there as well, he's doing the same. He's not going on the roll. I think it was an Osborne warning they gave me. I had them before. So I signed it, signed my life away and went, fucked off back, to the end. He came with me. And then after that, I went out. I thought, I'm going to have to leave the cell. That's what happened then, because I remember now. So I thought, well, if I'm in danger, fucking, let's just take it. His cunt's no good to me. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to help me. So, and then like I said, he folded, and that helped me. And then when you're all in prison, you're a fucking liability. You need to try and make yourself an asset. And the way I did it was I was helping people with their legal paperwork, and people who couldn't read or write, I was trying to help them write letters home and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Because once you start helping people, and then I realised I started. I'm a prisoner now. These are my people. Yeah, I'm not old Bill. I'm an inmate. And then I realised that a lot of these people never had any choices or chances in life. I did, and I fucked it up the wall. So it made me sort of humble to a degree to think, oh, I know you've done X, Y, Z, but do you know what? You come from an environment, you never had a fucking chance. I had loads of chances and I blew them all. And then that's why my mind started to work that, you know what? I've got to just do what I'm doing and understand and accept what I've done. Because if you never accept the shit you've done, you're never going to get past it. You know what I mean? And that's what I tried to do. And I thought, you know what? When I get out of jail, I'm never going to tell bollocks again. I'll just tell it straight. If I please or offend people, it is what it is. Just got to be true to yourself.
Yeah. So a kid who was karate, British champion, to battering nonces, to then working with the royal family,
millionaire,
multi-millionaire, making money, to then fucking over the police, to then in the jail,
wanker, mate.
Gambling addict. Like, it's not, like I say, like, it's a very fascinating story, Paul. Like, it's your life, and you're not the only one who's fucked up and made plenty of mistakes. So see, did you survive that prison sentence okay for a copper, or was there many other scares along the way?
I was lucky because I made friends with people. And people, as I said to you, I tried to help people. When I ended up in the fucking, I had my own office doing rottles for people, you know, home leaves. You know, and we all know the most important thing for a person is to get the fuck out of their family and your phone credit. Don't fuck with people's phone credit, because that's when they're going to kick off. And, you know, and stuff like your canteen, innit? You know what I mean? And so I worked in an office where I was helping people with their home leaves and liaising with the prison and all the rest of it to get people out, to get people home. So that gave me, you know, more respect, if you want to call it that. People started to forget what my job was. Do you know what I mean? They started to accept me as a person, and the same with me, where I used to catch these people. Now I'm living with them. Do you know what I mean? And so it sort of changed to where I started getting to understand more about how people turn to crime and what happened. Whereas before, you're in a place, it's them and us, isn't it? It's you and us. That's how it is. Not really interested in your background story, or interested in what you've done there. But then when you start to, as I say, listen to people, you think, fucking hell, you never had a chance, and you're a clever person. You know, so a lot of clever people in there. Art that could do art. I remember a boy, and he said he'd been abused, you know, and that he turned to drugs and ended up doing crime, and he couldn't hack it. But it was an artist. He painted a Chelsea mural in his cell, and the governor came around. I thought it was a new governor. One day he goes, "Now paint over that, please, mate." It made him fucking paint over it. You think, but he's just done that. It was stimulating for this boy. You know, he goes, "Oh, you're not allowed to paint whatever," but why would you just do that? Just put fucking posters over it when he comes around next, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What's the worst thing you've seen in prison for a police officer?
I've seen people shanked up. I was talking to one fella one day, and he seemed a normal person, and someone walked past him from another gang on road, and he goes, "Paul, 2 seconds, mate." Pulled out a shank and started stabbing the fuck out of this geezer, and I was like, "Fuck!" And the female screw looked the other way. She didn't want to look. And he fucked off, run off. I was out there myself, but he got put on the block for a fucking month or so, and he come back, no charges, no nothing. I see someone get sliced open with a fucking top of a tuna tin. Just sheer violence. I mean, someone got jugged in there. They suspected sex case. Someone getting glass with a coffee mug and half his eye like that was hanging off. It's brutal. You know, it's fucking brutal. That's to certain places.
How's life like now?
Yeah, I'm in a better place. You know, every morning I still wake up with a bit of pill. You know, it's a bit of pill to swallow. What's happened to me? But I'm doing all right. You know, I still think about the mistakes, the bad decisions I made, not mistakes. But as the way I see it, right, I started off with this interview telling you I did this in the place, then I bet sex case and all that, and certain principles, don't touch a police officer and all the rest of it. You know, some people, that's wrong. That's fine. That's your opinion. At the time, I thought it was the right thing to do. Protect my colleagues, protect the public from scumbags like these sort of individuals. Give them a bit of fucking payback, you know? All right, vigilante, thugging, whatever you want to call it. But I can't change what I've done, and I don't regret some of the things I've done. But going into prison and as a police officer, you're stripped of everything, your dignity, your fucking respect, because you're now the lowest of the low, aren't you? You're a bent copper, you're fucked up, you know, and now you're going where you deserve to be. And I'm a firm believer that if you dish it out, like I said to you, be prepared to take it. Don't stand in the dock and start fucking crying. Too late. You've got to go and man up now and get into the big house and survive. If you put that uniform on, you've got to act appropriate, didn't you? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, if you let the side down in any way, shape or form, you've got to pay the consequences.
Yeah.
But in saying that, if you're a sex case and they're not in a job, go fuck yourself. I hope you get kettled when you get put in jail. Right, that's the first thing. The second thing is if you've been corrupt and you've done stupidness or whatever else, you've got a small chance, a small window of opportunity if you go to prison to claw some of that respect back and that dignity back, and that's never go on the fucking roll with the sex cases and nonsense. That's your it's a way to earn your colours to get back to some kind of normality. Do not go on the roll. It's as simple as that. I always said to people, a couple of people that have been in this shit, I said, listen, shave your fucking hair off, put some weight on because you're going to lose weight when you go in there. And if it comes on top, you're going to have to smash your cell up or bang a screw out and get put on the fucking block. Do not go on the rule, because once you do that, you've sold out the last ounce of dignity that you've got.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest regret you have being a Royal Cop?
Doing the fraud, letting my colleagues down and my friends down, and
Do you never regret it not saying anything to Prince Andrew, being cheeky?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's countless times we wanted to tell him to fuck off. And a colleague of mine lost the plot and wanted to go and give him a clump. But what was going to happen since we get drummed out the job, kicked, put on division, whatever else, if we'd have said anything back to him, it would have been, you'd have said it and you'd have been a hero for 5 minutes, but then where are you going to be? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't say things.
You ended up in the jail anyway.
I ended up in fucking jail anyway, yeah. I did. I ended up in the clink anyway, so fuck it.
Where do you go forward for the future, Paul?
Right, so I'm not one, I don't want to be one of these people that are bouncing around the internet doing all these fucking interviews. I'm doing a few. I promised you I'd do yours 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I keep my word. And again, on road, all you got is your word. If you've got nothing else, you got your word.
Yeah, fuck all.
Yeah, you got fuck all. That's the only thing you got. And so I've done some TV stuff. I'm looking at I've got some other TV stuff I'm looking at, trying to come away from Prince Andrew. You know what I mean? I've said what I've said. I don't want to be a broken fucking record at the end of the day. People can either believe me or disbelieve me. I've been completely honest with you. I've read comments, they don't affect me. Yeah, I've been through jail. Yeah, I've been in ACAT. You know what I mean? I've been through all the prison system. So people's comments on the internet, I say to people out there, if you're on Instagram, whatever you're on, don't take to heart people's comments. They're fuck all. They're spineless wankers who want to, abuse you or whatever else. They're just fucking spineless. I accept some of the comments that are put to me because I've got what I've done. So I have to have that sort of people calling me a con man and a fucking liar and a thief and all the rest of it. I was a con man. I was a liar. I was a thief. But I'm not fucking now. There was a period of time I went through when I was all those things and worse. And I've come out the other end. Yeah, I understand what I've done. I'm not proud of it. I've got to live with that for the rest of my life. But at the end of the fucking day, I'm moving forward, being honest, and everything that I've said about Prince Andrew is the truth. And my colleagues are too frightened to come forward. Yeah, so I'm the mouthpiece for the silent majority, if that's what it is.
I'm more than happy to have your colleagues on if they ever decide to come
forward.
forward.
I mean, do you know what? There's a queue of people saying the same thing, including news readers that are on the telly I speak to. There's people I speak to in the media that covertly slag off Prince Andrew, but won't do it overtly because they'll lose their fucking jobs.
It's not just Prince Andrew, it's people working in breakfast shows, it's people who's worked in big fucking television shows that are still active today. It's okay out in the people who's dead, but it's the ones that are still alive who are naughty.
Yeah, I mean, my as I say, at the end of the day, I'm only interested in the protection and sort of making sure the survivors are okay. Do you know what I mean? These individuals need locking up. Simple as I told you that before. They shouldn't be walking on the cracks of the pavement. They should be fucking in jail. Mm-hmm. We should concentrate on the victims of domestic violence, the children, women that have been raped. I mean, these fucking pair of scumbags, cousins and the other fella, you say about bringing back the death penalty, there's two ideal fucking candidates. Do you know what I mean? And the Met Police, unfortunately, even if 1% of the Met are corrupt, that's still 300 officers, is it, or whatever it is? It's a lot of police officers that are going to go through the system now, and it's not a good look for them.
Just before we finish up, did you ever come across anybody in prison that you'd put in prison?
I fucking did.
No way.
Yeah, I did. Funny you should mention that. Yeah, I got to Stamford Hill, and like DCAT facility where I'm allowed to have home visits and all the rest of it. And when I was at Marylebone, this homeless fella had murdered 2 other homeless people, like nasty, stabbed them up and cut their throats while they were asleep, I think. And anyway, we got a call on the radio one night, urgent assistance, such and such, Jamie, whatever his name was, has been seen in Soho, wherever, Greek Street, or where the fuck it was. Went down there and there's 2 coppers wrestling with this fucking thing, this animal. So we jumped out. It was a massive fight. It was great. It was fucking mad. We imagine he's killed 2 people. He don't give a fuck. And he took a righteous clump because we had to fucking subdue him. Do you know what I mean? He took a proper clump. Just to get him in cuffs and that. He was a dangerous individual. And anyway, swifted him off. He got done for murder, locked up 15 years later. He's walked past me in the fucking landing, hasn't he? But he wouldn't have remembered me anyway. I was thinking, I'm sure I know that geezer. Yeah, he was on his last few years. He'd done it 15 years. He'd done it more, whatever he'd done. And now he was coming out, getting ready to come out. But he was still off key. He was still weren't right. I was thinking, fucking hell. That's when you realise. I was in there with lords as well, a couple of lords. And this is what fucks me off, right? So I'm in there with these 2 lords and an MP for expenses, yeah? And one of them says to me, "It's only been in fucking 5 minutes." I'm sitting in my office dealing with all the rotters, all the home leaves, with people who've come into offer 10-year stretches, 15-year stretches, want to go home and sit their fucking family. This tit's only been in fucking 2 days. He's coming up to me going, "Excuse me, I need a day out." I said, "Fucking what? You've only just been locked up." He goes, "Yeah, what it is, my man on my farm is going away and I need to go home. I've got really very rare chickens or pigs or something because I need to go and feed them." And the fellow I was sat next to, he was in for whatever he was in for. He goes, "Okay, let me explain to you. We don't give a fuck about you or your fucking chickens. Now fuck off." I said, oh. Right, so he's fucked off. Then the other one's going, I used to talk to him, and I'm not going to identify him, but he used to be a judge and all the rest of it. It was whatever else. But so this is the attitude of these fucking people. Then he's gone to me, "Yeah, when I get out, I think I'm going to write a book." I said, "I'm not being funny. You've only done fucking 5 minutes in jail. You haven't even put a dent in your fucking pillow. What the fuck are you going to write about?" Right? He's, oh. So I go out to fucking no money, no fucking job, yeah? He goes out to they go back out to £350 a day in the House of Lords. How the fuck does that work? Yeah? They're now sitting there, they're obviously dishonourable, they're the same as me, you've committed a fraud, so you're untrustworthy. How the fuck are you sitting on, passing laws? You know what I mean? How does that work? They go straight back out into the House of Lords, they're on £350 a day. This is the them and us situation, isn't it? Yeah. I'm in the gutter, rightly so, I've got to pick myself up. But they go back to a life of luxury off the backs of the likes of us. It's a fucking madness.
Paul, listen, very interesting story. I've enjoyed this today. Would you like to finish up on anything?
I'd just like to say, look, I said to James, I'm going to do this interview to highlight Embrace CVOC, Child Victims of Crime. So if anything you've taken from this, don't fucking gamble, don't do the stock market, because it's just the devil's casino. Yeah. If anyone promises you something that doesn't seem realistic, it's probably a con. Do you know what I mean? Don't get into that thing. And just please look at the charity, and if you can put some money towards them, you'll be doing kids, a favour, and it will help them. As I say, they're affected indirectly or directly by crime. Either or is not a good thing for a child anyway. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be really nice if people enjoyed this video. I've been frank. I've kept nothing back. Like me or hate me, just please look at the charity. Fair play for that. I'll make sure I donate money to today. I'll leave you a link in the description. Paul, sweet. Listen, for coming on today, mate. Like I say, I've enjoyed that. It's an interesting conversation. It's been a bit of everything. I wish you nothing but best for the future, brother. Yeah, thank you, mate. Take care and God bless. Yeah, and you, mate. Yeah.